plug in, log on, let's break it down. Truth ain't scared to be found. Dogma shakes when questions rise. No more fear, no more lies. Cyber deconstruction, let's get real. Faith when challenge starts to peel. If it's built on solid ground, why is it scared to stick around? Sacred text, twisted views. Time to separate lies from truth. Not here to burn, but here to see what survives when the mind breaks free. Deconstruct, analyze, open hearts, open eyes. If it falls, let it be. What remains is meant to be. Cyber deconstruction, let's get real. Faith when challenge starts to peel. If it's built on solid ground, why is it scared to stick around? Not for hate, but for the wise. Truth won't shatter, only lies. Time to start the conversation. Now ain't the time to pretend nothing happened.
Hello, everybody. Just checking something real quick, making sure we're getting good. Oh, I had a double audio. Let me make sure we got that fixed. All right, looks like I got that fixed. If you're hearing double audio on TikTok, let me know. But welcome in, everybody, to this fine Sunday evening. Topic tonight is Christianity. Is false? Can you prove me wrong? If you want to join the discussion over on YouTube, the link is tinyurl.com/cd-guest. Matter of fact, let me drop that down just a little bit so it's not blending too much in with the other yellow. Let me make that actually a little bit bigger. There we go. I don't want to make it too big, gets cut off then. Boom. Think that should fit. How you doing, Solar? But hey, we are live. Welcome in. Looking to do some destroying tonight. It's been a minute. I actually didn't go live at all this weekend on my own live, which I was rather surprised to. Normally, I do. Sometimes I didn't. But hey, if you know any Christians, please make sure you're sharing this out to every Christian that you know. I want them in here. I want to talk to them. And if you are over on YouTube and you're a Christian, again, tinyurl.com/cd-guest, hop on in. I would love to chat with you over there. And let's get started. We're going to be talking about why Christianity is false. We're going to be talking about the historicity of Jesus Christ. We're going to be talking about messianic prophecies. And we're just going to be talking about all around absurdities of the Bible. So I love to see anybody and everybody on a hard scale on a scale of 1 to head on concrete. How hard are we cussing today? For the first 20 minutes, there'll be a zero cussing, and then we'll see how the night goes. We'll see how the night goes. I can't give any promises that I won't cuss or that I won't drop some hard F-bombs or anything. But yeah, there'll probably be some cussing. It really just depends on the guests and how they're going. And Michael Bell over on YouTube, absolutely, the historicity of Spider-Man is definitely more believable. 100%. Not only do we know that New York existed, but we have evidence of the people that are mentioned. And so, yeah, we do have some pretty compelling arguments that Spider-Man is, in fact, more believable than the Bible. Check my space heater, it's literally on fire. It is, and holy crap, we've got a bad religion for smashing that goal on TikTok. Thank you so much for smashing that goal. Also, I am looking for more subscriptions on TikTok, and over on YouTube, I'm looking for more memberships. So if you do want to find ways to support me there, I would greatly appreciate it. Trying to mess with my filter over here, trying to get this all fixed. Sometimes I hate how green screens work over here. There we go. I think we got that fixed. I just hate how I had my hands glitching out there from time to time. Let's get this new gift goal set up. Let's go with, we'll go with roses. And also over on TikTok, join the team. If you join my team by hitting the little heart me by my head, over here by my name, you'll see a little heart. If you hit that, you'll join the team. And then there's team gifts. Knocking out those team gifts definitely help get this out on the FYP as well. Fire, hop on up. Let's talk about that. TTV Atheist, I will definitely check it. Thank you. And just so you guys know, TTV Atheist, let's give them some massive W's. They have donated me a microphone. So let's give them some massive W's. They definitely deserve it. They didn't have to, but they're donating a microphone to our cause. So let's give them some massive W's. But fire, hop in the box. Let's talk about it. I would love to hear your argument. Again, the link is up here, tinyurl.com/cd-guest. Hop in the box. Let's talk about it. And I got a $10 super chat from Adele. Nice to see you, Adele. You guys, if you guys don't know, Adele and her husband, I believe, they often support not only myself, but Justin as well. So let's make sure we're giving Adele some massive W's. And Adele, I appreciate that super chat so much. She said, "So glad to catch you live. Let's do this." And absolutely, Adele, we are absolutely going to do this. We're going to knock this out of the park. We're actually going to wait and see if we get any Christians coming in. I have a feeling they're going to be cowards, but we shall see. And we have Anthro saying, WWJD, what would Jethro do? Well, I've seen the Beverly Hillbillies, and whatever Jethro would do, you definitely don't want to do. Don't do what Jethro would do. That's a horrible idea. And don't do what Jesus would do. Jesus thought that it was necessary to be crucified. And so Jesus put himself supposedly on a cross to atone, to redeem us for our sins, but it's completely unnecessary. It's 100% arbitrary. And I think it's just goofy that Christians would think that it was necessary. But feel free to hop on up. Let's talk about it. Jesus loves Apple. Jethro saves. Jethro does save. Oh, Endless Cats is in the guest requests. Gonna get Endless Cats up here. And is that did that not bring Endless Cats up? Try to accept it again. I have accepted. It's not bringing you up. Jonathan Stack, hop in the link. tinyurl.com/CD guest. Let's talk about it. There we go. All right, we're getting Endless Cats up here. And how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. Let me make sure that they can hear you. Can you count to 10 real quick?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, can you all hear him on TikTok? I just want to make sure that they can be heard on TikTok. Okay, they could hear you on TikTok. And how old are you? Endless Cats, how old are
29.
you? All right, and are you a Christian?
Yeah, I'm 29.
No, are you a
No.
Christian? Oh.
No, I'm not. No.
Oh.
I believe in a lot of Christian values, though. I think there's a lot of good Christian values that has helped society.
Now, are these values that are uniquely Christian, or are these values that are found in other religions that Christianity just kind of co-opted?
I'm not too sure, but I just had a question for you. Were you ever a Christian in your
I
life?
was never a Christian. Never a Christian. I grew up practicing Judaism, but I was never a Christian. When I started deconstructing Judaism, I took not one look, but I read through probably Matthew chapter 3, set the book down, and said this was goofy. And then when I went to college, because of what my degree option was, I picked the book back up, and yeah, I confirmed it. It's goofy. The whole thing is 100% completely goofy.
You don't think that there's a lot of good verses in there that help a lot of people?
No, I don't think there are any verses in there that we can't either come upon ourselves, or there's a sword for a gift, that we can't come upon ourselves, or that don't come from other faiths and other religions.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. What was your favorite thing about Judaism? Or whatever, however you say it?
Judaism would be the community. The Judaism has an amazing community. I love the community. Some of the customs and cultures we have, but again, just like Christianity, I find the deity, the God, to be a complete monster. But my question is, when we talk about Christian values, though, so these are values that are found in the book. What's your view on, let's say, unaliving people? What's your view on that?
I would say. I mean, I think a lot of good things, but I mean, I would disagree with. I like watching a lot of you guys because you explain the bad in the Bible, and it's very helpful to see that and to not. Like, I'm omnism, so I believe in all religions have good and all religions have bad. So it's nice watching you guys to see your perspective. But I would wish that you guys would see a little bit of the good in the religion itself too. Like you said, community is probably really good for a lot of Christians.
So to be clear, it's not that we don't see the good. It's just that the bad outweighs the good, right? So, for example, do you have children?
No, I don't.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, yeah,
All right. So let's say that do you have a sister?
yeah.
All right. So let's say somebody graped your sister, right? They grape your sister and they unalive her, and she's found in the middle of the woods. Is there any amount of good that this person can do that you think will redeem them?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
Yeah, I would say no.
Yeah,
But,
same.
I think
So
there
yes.
has to be hope for everybody, though.
Yeah,
I think
but
that
what?
they have to have the hope that there would be some type of good.
Well, and just like Mr. E said on TikTok, what if he's just a really chill dude? This was a one-off thing. Saw your sister, did this horrible thing to her, this atrocious thing, realized he didn't want to get caught and took her to the woods. I mean, he's generally a pretty chill, good guy. You know, in fact, he donates millions
See,
of
I'm not
dollars.
disagreeing with you at all. I just had a question about your upbringing and if you see any good and value in the Bible. And at first, you said that you don't see any good and it's 100% goofy, but then you said you do see the good, but the bad outweighs it. So, but I do appreciate your time, man, and I hope you have a good night.
All right, yep.
Yo.
All right. Naan, is that how you pronounce it? Real quick, let me get this super chat real quick. Adele, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It's mostly goofy. I don't have a monster, unlike the God monster. And let me make sure, I might have missed another super chat, and I want to make sure that I'm definitely not missing anything. Oh, let me go. I gotta go boost my computer clocking up real quick. My computer's starting to be like, we're doing too much. I need to get a desktop. But anyways, can I get your age real quick?
Yeah, 21.
And are you a Christian?
I am.
All right. What is your strongest argument that Christianity is true?
Before I answer that, can I ask, like, are you atheist or agnostic, or what do you...
I am an atheist.
Okay. Well, before even Christianity, can I ask, like, there's some playing soccer in the background or something? All right, anyways, yeah. What's it called? Yeah, so, well, this is why I believe, like, God even exists, is because I truly believe he exists, because honestly, I don't think if there was like no God, I don't think like morality would be like, real. That's my I have like the morality, argument.
Okay, well, let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
When you say morality, do you believe that like it is moral at the time because God says it's moral? Or do you believe that like the morality transcends God? Like, is it moral because God says it's moral, or does God say it because it is moral?
Repeat that last part one more time.
Okay. Is it moral because God says it's moral, or does God say it's moral because it's already moral?
No, I would definitely say God dictates what's moral, but it can obviously change.
So morality can change.
I would say it would change, but in either extreme circumstances or circumstances that would be for the greater good. But I would never say that it's like generally, I would say it's, like the same.
All right. So my question for you is next, does God change?
Does God change? Like,
Mhm.
no, not generally, no.
All right,
But
so if
like,
God doesn't change, and are the morals based off of his nature?
are the morals based off of his nature? Yeah.
Okay, so if the morals are based off of his nature and he doesn't change, meaning like his nature doesn't change, then
I
how
mean,
can the
no, it could say.
laws change?
No, no, no. Like, I wouldn't say his like, so, like, I mean, depending on how we view his nature to be, like, I would definitely say, like, obviously we look at his nature to be, divine, loving, caring, all of this. But I would definitely say if God were to do something that we would consider like vile, vile, unjust, and all of these things, and I mean, we technically we really don't understand like the reason behind it. We have a very limited perspective when
Oh,
it
you don't
comes
want
to
to take you don't want to take that stance. As soon as you take that stance, you're actually going to lose your grounding for morality.
why is that?
Yeah, so if you're saying that God's ways are higher and we just can't understand, my question for you then would be is how do you know that in the book, and sorry, this is a Jewish Torah, but how do you know that when it comes to the scripture, how do you know that the scripture isn't a test and that God really doesn't want us to do what's in this book? But you wouldn't know because his ways are higher. So he's having you convinced that this book is good, but it's really bad.
Oh, well, that's because, like, I mean, I would take the stance that if, okay, so without that book, without that book, I would say that there is no true meaning to life. I mean, humans can really ultimately I mean, let's just say, forget the book. Like, if we didn't have that book, at least we have something to go off of. But if we didn't, I mean, we really have what's in our environment, we have what other people tell us, and we have different things that can really influence in different ways that we have no idea is, what's right from wrong, and it can lead to circumstances that are tragic, and we've seen it all through humanity. So that's why I would say, even if we didn't truly know, at least we have something to go off of. Because I mean, it's not like, obviously, if it was, like, unaliving people, this and this, like, go off of that. No, but it's
Well, real
not
quick,
like
let me
that.
ask you a quick question. You mentioned that if we go after what other people just tell us, that could lead
Mhm.
to like atrocities. Can you name some
No,
of
not
these?
necessarily. Well, I'm gonna clear it up real quick. It's
Okay.
not really necessarily like other people. It's kind of like, it's a mixture. It's like your environment. It's what, little things from people. It's what your it's what you experience, from a younger age, and it might be subtle things, like very, very subtle, but it can influence you hugely in the future. So I'll go on.
Yeah, what's wrong with that though? I guess that'd be my question is what's wrong with
Oh,
that?
it's okay. So let me tell you what's wrong with that. It's because
Mhm.
once you actually, damn, now that I'm thinking about it, okay, so what's wrong with that is because if you were to necessarily show children, young minds, certain things and certain attributes, and honestly put them in, terrible households, not really terrible households, but you would experience like certain things that would kind of direct their minds in certain ways. But then again, if you were to follow, some of the biblical things mentioned in the Bible, like thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, this and this, it typically leads to, a decently happy life. But if you really don't have any basis to, base anything off of besides society, I mean, you're gonna end up, I mean, not really end up bad necessarily, but it can really lead to a more tragic, upbringing. And I
Are
have
you
many
are you
examples.
familiar? Hold on. Are you familiar with Genesis 19:33 through 36?
What's crazy? No, I actually no. I'm really just basing it on, moral. I really don't read the Bible as much as I should too, but no.
Yeah, I'm gonna get this brought up on the screen because I'm glad you brought up like things that might be viewed um as like immoral. So let me get this brought up on the
Mhm.
screen real quick. So we get this pop up real fast. Oh, we're gonna need to go over here to properties. Boom. Hit okay. There we go. So what we're going to read here is, this is in Genesis. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she rose. On the next day, the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight. Then you go in and lie with him, so that we may preserve the offspring through our father." So they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger rose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she rose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by her father. Do you think this is a passage that our children should be reading? If we're talking about like morality, that we have a story where, hey, go get your father drunk and sleep with him.
No, and if that's the case, then either I'm completely wrong or I need to do more research on it. But because, I haven't obviously read the full context of what it was, if that even, if that was the full context, then it's definitely wrong. I'm not going to sit here and justify what I don't know. But I can also definitely say, like, my argument to that would be, if we look on the opposite side, I mean, who is to tell someone with their own subjective morals that, even if morality is subjective, well, it is in your opinion, right?
No, I can show that it's objective.
You said objective?
And hold up. Yeah, I can show that it's subjective. But hold on real quick. I just got real quick. Mother of Moose, thank you so much for the 10 subscriptions. Thank you so much. Let's give Mother of Moose some massive W's on both chats. So Cappy, Vita, Titicus, Bobby, Dr. James, Mike, Omar, John, Lee, the algorithm, Algo, enjoy your subscriptions. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're streaming on Twitch too?
No, on YouTube.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. Wait, I'm confused though. I thought you had subjective morals. I mean,
No, I have objective morality. I'm just asking you some questions. You never asked me about my view, but yeah, I believe I can ground objective morals. But let's continue down your line though, because you believe they're objective as well. But you're basing it off.
I've never heard an atheist say they have objective morals. Never. I promise you. Never.
Yeah, we can talk about that here in just a little bit. But yeah, so if you go through, here's another one we'll bring up Songs of Solomon.
Wait, but I mean, if you could bring it up, but if I don't have any basis for your side, then I just need to do more research. But can I ask, like, why your morals are? Why are yours objective in your opinion?
Oh yeah, mine are just going to be objective because I'll ground it in empathy, meaning that the empathy is the ability to look and see from the other person's point of view, from all parties' point of view. And whenever we have a dialectic, whenever we talk about morality, it is a dialectic, right? Morality is always a dialectic, whether it's passing laws, stuff like it's always going to be a dialectic. And whenever we have a dialectic, the ability to look at it from the other person's point of view is listening to that side of the argument. And when you ignore the other side, you're ignoring an entire side to the argument. Thus, it's irrational. And so I just grounded in morality or in
objectivity.
Empathy.
Oh, empathy. Yeah. Okay, so empathy from others. Empathy from okay, so just the general feeling of empathy, then I'm guessing.
Do you know what empathy is?
You said what?
Do you know what empathy is?
What feeling is that sympathy, feeling others, the pain of others?
So empathy is the ability to, so that's sympathy. Sympathy is when you see something and then you're like, ooh, ow. Empathy is when you put yourself in their shoes and you attempt to look at it from their point of view. So that's empathy. So for example, when we talk about, say, parents being raped, right? Even when they're drunk, right? I could put myself in Lot's shoes and say, oh, I would not want to be taken advantage of like that. And I don't think anybody in the world would be. Thus, it's wrong. I can look at slavery and say, being empathetic, listen to the pleas, the arguments of those that are in slavery and realize that it's just wrong by listening to their argument and go, that's not okay. However, we can also take a thing where I'm looking at, like, say, my son getting a shot in his arm.
I understand.
Right, I can. Well, and let me give an adverse to that. I can look at my son getting a shot in his arm, and I can listen to his argument, right? But then my argument would be is that, hey, this is a polio shot. I don't want you getting polio, and thus I'm still listening to his part of the argument. But there's a greater good that comes from him not getting polio, right? So the shot would go through, right? And so it's just the ability to listen to both sides of the argument. And if you refuse to do that, you're not acting in empathy, you're ignoring a side to an argument, thus you're irrational, thus your argument and your decision making is irrational.
No, I definitely understand now. I understand. But it's like if so then what so okay, so let me ask you then, what would be our purpose then?
Your purpose, what do you mean, like our purpose?
Could we create our own purpose in life?
Yeah, your purpose could be whatever you want it to be. Like, for example, let me ask you real quick. As a Christian, what's your purpose as a Christian?
Well, as a Christian, my purpose would be to honestly be as close to not as close, but I would as similar to Jesus as possible, you know. That would be mine.
Getting as close to Jesus?
Not close, as similar to him.
As similar. But why do you need to get similar to Jesus when Jesus doesn't have any unique teachings? Jesus literally has no unique teachings that are not found, not only in like Judaism text, but found in other religious texts outside of.
I don't necessarily need teachings to look at someone and say this man is incredible. I mean, I don't need a man to teach me anything. I mean, what I mean, I just need to look at you and see what you're like. Even not even see, because maybe you have something that I've never heard of. But honestly, if following Jesus had made me a better person, then and from what I just hear, then I'm going to keep doing it. You know?
Well, but what did he do that can't be found in any other teachings or any other text by any other person?
What did he do that couldn't be found in any other teachings or any other person? Just no evil. Just the it's the perfect human.
Well, that's not true. So, like, for example, what's your view on slavery?
What's my view on slavery? It's what I might be thinking about that is wrong.
So you think it's wrong. Did you know that the God of the Old Testament says it's okay?
Yeah, I heard that argument a couple times. I mean,
okay.
I'm not like my point was to come up here and try to argue that morality is objective, but you already.
Well, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. So. Right, and I'm not going to get into the slavery argument itself of showing you the scriptures, because you said you've heard the argument, so you acknowledge that you've heard it, right? Now, do you realize that?
I mean, you can try and persuade me in any way, but obviously, I'm gonna have to do my own research on it. Like,
do your own research. Yeah, don't take my word for it.
No, because like, you know, like I'll hear your side. Like, I'm not stubborn. I'll definitely hear you out and I'll see like what point you have to make. But if I can find no true evidence that is your side is wrong, then obviously I'm gonna have to, side with you. But I'm not an ignorant, person. But I can definitely say that, like, I'll hear your side though. But I don't know. I don't know.
I appreciate that. But where I'm going at with that is, so slavery's in the Old Testament. God's okay with it. Now, when we move to the New Testament, Jesus tells stories. He uses parables in which he never condemns slavery in any of his parables. In fact, there's a parable that he tells, and it's akin to his second coming. He's likened it to his second coming. And so he says that there's a master that leaves, and he leaves one of his slaves in charge. This slave has been doing everything he's supposed to be doing, so he's left in charge. And then the master leaves. Well, while the master's gone, this slave gets lazy. and he's not telling the other slaves what they need to be doing. He's not doing nothing. And then it states that the master came back at a time that the slave wasn't expecting. And he notices that nothing was done. None of the slaves were doing anything, nothing like that. So the slave that he puts in charge, he gives him an extremely severe beating, because he knew what he was supposed to do, but he didn't do it. And he gets a severe beating. But the slaves who didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, because they were relying on direction from this other slave, it states that even though they really didn't do anything wrong, they are still going to receive a lesser beating, a lesser punishment, but they're still going to be punished because the law was still broken. And so this is Jesus's words. But then when we go to what Paul says, there's not a single scripture that denounces physical slavery. There's some scriptures that will state that slavery spiritually is gone because we're all slaves to Christ. But it never denounces physical slavery. But when we look at atheism, and when we look at slavery, in fact, it's a secular movement that started the abolishment of slavery in Haiti, in France. During the French Revolution, it was secularists that wanted to get rid of religion that very first abolished slavery. And then Napoleon Bonaparte, when he took over as dictator, with the blessing of the Catholic Church, reinstituted slavery. But it was secularism and atheism that started the movement to abolish slavery, right?
Okay.
And you agree that slavery is wrong. So it seems like you agree with the secular side and not what you would consider the objective side of Christianity.
Again, I definitely do have problems with atheists and what is secular again? I'm sorry.
Secular just means it's like another term for like atheism or not believing in a god.
Oh. Yeah, so I definitely do like have problems with atheists. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, we can mention all the problems with Christianity, but I mean, not specifically you, obviously, but you know, the atheist side, I definitely see it as more. I could never, bro. I just couldn't. I mean, I have too many problems today, with it.
Well, when it comes to morality, right? And you're right, there are going to be atheists who are going to be that were okay with slavery, right? There were atheists that were. But again, when we take a look at how I ground morality, they weren't being empathetic. And we as other atheists can look at those few atheists and say they are wrong. They're not employing empathy. They're wrong. We don't side with them. However, as a Christian, as a Muslim, and as somebody who practices Judaism, as far as like the Orthodox communities and a few other, there's like the Reform, I believe the Sephardi and a few other Jewish communities are a little bit different on this. But for the most part, in the Jewish community, if you're religious, you have to look and say, I got to bite the bullet on this. I got to bite this artillery shell and say, you know what? Slavery's okay at some points in history. And with you saying that if God says it, then that's what makes it right, you then have to be okay with a hypothetical where if God came to you and you knew it was God and God said, hey, your sister just gave birth to an infant, I want you to go in and smother your infant with a pillow, right? You, as a Christian, if God is your objective moral standard, you would have to stand by and say, yes, you would do that. Even though you don't necessarily agree with it, you would still have to agree to do it.
I mean, yeah, because I mean, I kind of look at it as like, it's.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I mean, oh yeah, no, yes, absolutely, and I mean, I have reasons, why. Obviously, it's obviously a vile act, but at the end of the day, if God came to me, I would know he's real. And if God came to me, I would know that there is an all-powerful being that can speak to me through, this, and this. So I would say if he asked me to come, I would definitely have proof, and I would be, if he asked me to do something, vile, that's against everything that I go against, I know he's real and I know he's all powerful. So yes, I would still do it.
So you would do it. And let me check something.
Well, because I have proof he's real. I would have not. I would have my life would be, it'd be complete.
Yeah, I'm just checking something real quick because I want to make sure this is as analogous. And it's wild that you would say that. I think
It is.
I
Definitely.
think that's wild. But
Everyone's gonna have their opinions. So
yeah, so it is God. Yeah, I just want to make sure because if it was going to say like the angel of the Lord appeared, then I say like an angel appears. So if God appeared to you and said, "Go unalive your infant niece," you would do it.
I gave you my answer, yeah. And
You know,
I gave you my reasoning too. It's because I would have proof that he's real. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't obviously know why he would even ask me to do something like that. I mean, I have no idea. But
well, he did it with Abraham. That's why I use that one specific because you'll get cases where people will try to use the "would you go grape" or something. I try to keep the hypotheticals I use to things that happened in the Bible.
Can I ask you can I ask you so the same thing I want to ask you, like the exact same thing, but what if you knew that child was going to grow up to be a serial killer? Would you still do it?
Would I do it? No.
Why not?
Yeah, because
if you knew that child was
let me put it this way, right? Hold on. Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. I'm Jewish, right? I grew up practicing. I'm Jewish ethnically. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors. If I had the opportunity to go back in time and unalive baby Hitler, I would not do it. Why? Because again, empathy kicks in and it would still be wrong for me to unalive him. And any decision that he makes is his own moral decision. And we can then judge him on his moral decision. Anybody that knows what he's going to do and they still voted for him to get him into power because he had a book that he had written and you still vote him into power, these people would be held responsible, right? And I feel like they ought be held responsible. But no, any actions that he makes is his own making. So no, I wouldn't do it. What I would seek to do is maybe try to do things in which we could try to reform him, maybe get him an art tutor, and do some other things. But no, I would not unalive him. And thank you for all the Joel Raiders coming in. I appreciate all the Joel Raiders coming in.
Okay, so you said you wouldn't unalive him, but it's kind of, I mean, you really have no. Okay, so you wouldn't unalive him, but you would have no, you would have no intervention in his life. You would have no, but you would say like, oh, it's the people, but you have to remember these people really were just being persuaded into a version of like the world that they would ultimately enjoy, obviously at the cost of other people. They know what they were doing, but
if you study the rise of Hitler, you'll notice, if you actually study it, you'll know that his book was flying off the shelves. So it seems like I'm not gonna to blame all the German people, but it seems like that a lot of we're pretty okay with exterminating the Jewish people.
I mean, you got to remember humans are selfish. So people obviously do things for their own benefit, regardless of the other person. That's how humans. That's the nature of them. But I'm trying to say that if
Hey, real quick, Joel, get the fuck out of my pantry. Sorry, Joel's in the process of raiding my pantry right now, so I had to tell him to stay out of it. Anyways.
Like what I was saying was, if you were to, the thing is though, that's where I would look at you like a little, like I would look at, like you looked at me crazy for, doing this. Now I'm gonna look at you crazy because it's like you wouldn't, stop this insanely, like it's insane. Like this, I mean, compared to one child, I mean, you have millions of people being slaughtered, bro. That's crazy to me. That's
Yeah, so the
insane.
issue that you're running into, right, is because again, I would employ empathy, right? And there's cases that maybe something changes and stuff, but ultimately when he makes his decision to do something, that's his decision, right? But if I unalive him, right? If I unalive baby Shitler, right?
Mhm.
I'm not employing empathy, right? I'm not employing it,
But
right?
okay, but you wouldn't break the rules for the greater good.
I wouldn't. No, because any decision that he makes is his own decision to
And his
make.
decision is wrong. It's
Correct. Yeah, I
objectively
agree.
wrong. So it's
Absolutely.
not
His
his.
decision
So
is objectively wrong, but that doesn't mean I get to go and unalive a child.
you're right, but it's. I mean, you're. I don't get me wrong. I understand what you're saying. Like you are at the end of the day gonna be a murderer. You're going to be unaliving
Yeah,
a
so I'm not
child.
going to do it. What I would do is hop my ass right back into that Wayback Machine and jump forward to when this order was actually signed and given, and then yeah, we might take care of business then, because he's actually then taken an action that would justify it. But a child, no.
A child or millions of Jews.
That my grandparents were a part of. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and no, I still would not unalive a child. It is still unjustified to
Okay, so let
unalive a
me ask you
child.
this. Don't you think that's okay, so don't you think that's selfish then? It's for you having the opportunity to stop something so absolutely tragic for the cost of a life?
All right, yes, because I'd be acting unempathetic if I did
Well,
that, right?
but who cares about empathy or unempathy? Who cares
Because
about
it'd
you're
be
saving people?
objectively wrong to unalive a child.
Bro, man, screw that kid, bro. You saving millions of people.
So why can't I hop right back in the Wayback Machine and go unalive him after he signs the orders to do these atrocious things?
Wait, you said after he signs the or
Mhm.
bro, so wait,
Because then it'd
hold
be
on.
justified. Because then I have a justification to take the argument for people like my grandparents and stuff who are actually now going to be affected by it. Now I got the justification for their arguments.
Oh, so you're trying okay, so you're trying to so you're saying after he's made his decisions and went through his whatever.
Hmm.
I mean, but why it doesn't really
It's
matter.
just like
You're
if
gonna
you
do it
were to
anyways.
it's just like if you were to ask me the same argument. Normally the way this argument goes is, do I have a chance to stop a big boom from going off in a city, unaliving millions of people within a city, or like graping somebody? You want to know what's going to happen? That whoever pushed that button to cause that city to go boom, he's going to be the one who did the morally atrocious act. I'm still not going to grape or unalive that innocent person, right? I'm still not going to do it. Whoever pushes that button to put that big boom in that city, they're the ones who are morally atrocious.
Understand like
Hmm.
I understand what you're saying, like it's right, they are the ones, but you're kind of thinking of it as like, oh, it's all them, it's them, but it's also
Hmm.
on you if you have that
It's not on
decision.
me. It's
Why?
not
But you
on
have
me.
the decision. You have the decision though. It
Yeah,
is on you,
yeah, because
technically.
it's not subjective. I am acting on empathy and listening to the argument at the time of the child, because at this point in time, there's no other debate to be had. Then that child, I'm not going to unalive the child who hasn't done nothing yet. But as soon as the man who signs an order to commit these acts, now he has done something, and now I would be justified, and now there would be an argument from the people like my grandparents in which I would then be justified to take action. I don't know why this is so hard for you to understand.
It is very hard for me to understand because a life is a life, and you're gonna end up doing it anyways. Like you know what the child is going to be capable of. is going to inevitably do. So like it doesn't matter if you do it from the early stage or when he makes the decision, he's gonna do it anyways.
Yeah, I'm just not going to do it, and as he's a child, I'll wait till he actually commits the atrocious act that justifies it. Then,
but he's gonna do the same thing anyways. That makes
Mm-hmm.
zero sense.
Yeah, because that's when the argument comes to fruition. There's no argument when he's a child.
I guess. I mean, you're really adhering to your like framework,
Mhm.
which I respect. But you know, obviously, I have my different views. But hey, I mean, that's it is what it is. You know.
But you got anything else?
No, man, no. You know, we brought a crowd. You know, so man, I'm sure you have some more people. You know, waiting for you. But it's definitely been a pleasure talking. You know.
Right.
So anyway.
All right, yeah, but I dropped him. And real quick, Adele, thank you for the $5. Spent 5 hours getting tattooed Friday, and it was less painful than your comment section. Yeah, sometimes the comment section is absolute toxic sludge. And let me go up here. I missed one. Let me hop over here so we can make sure we are getting these right. And that's just wild. Like, the idea of not understanding why I'm not willing to unalive a child, and somehow I'm wrong for that because there's not an argument to be made. Now, once the orders are signed, that's a whole different story. That's a completely different story. And Adele, thank you again for the $10 super chat again. Panty raid. Oh, pantry. Yes, a pantry raid. Joel over on TikTok sent a raid over on TikTok, and somebody cued me in that Joel was in the process of raiding the pantry, and I just need to let Joel know to get out of the pantry. So we're going to go ahead and move over to Video Ninja. We're going to go ahead and bring Matt on up. Hey, Matt, are you there?
Hey, I'm there. How's it going, man?
Hey, I'm going.
Doing good. All
And
right.
and TikTok, can you all hear Matt? Make sure TikTok can hear you real quick. Can you count to 10 real quick?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, there is an echo.
Get that?
Let me go get that fixed real fast.
That might be on my side.
Do you I don't know. TikTok does this, and how old are you while I'm trying to work on this echo?
20.
20. And are you a Christian?
Yes.
All right. I believe Christianity is false. Can you give me a strong argument for why I'm wrong?
Okay, well, first I'd like to know whether you're an atheist or a theist. Do you believe that there's no God whatsoever? Because that's probably where I would start, is trying to provide evidence in a God existing before going into Christianity and Christ.
Oh, I'm an atheist, and hold on, I'm trying to get this audio over here fixed, but my equalizer on TikTok's not opening up.
Hey, no worries, man.
Real quick, TikTok, I'm gonna go ahead. How many? Let's see here. See how many people we got in here. Sometimes running this over Video Ninja is just so bleh.
No worries, dude. No worries.
All right. Oh. Open up equalizer. I don't know why it does this. It is so frustrating.
Man,
Oh,
no
they're saying
worries,
it might
take
be
your
you.
time.
Can you get headphones? They're saying it might be you.
Might be me. Yeah, let me see what I can do. Unfortunately, I don't have headphones with me right now. I'm at the lake, so is it that unbearable?
Let me count to 10 real quick. I'm looking at something real fast.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, let me try this. Count to 10 again. I want to make sure they can hear you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, can you hear him? Is that better? That's better. Okay, we got that. We got that better. All right,
Hey,
all
awesome.
right. So yeah, I'm an atheist.
Okay. So you're an atheist, but I heard that you believe in objective morality.
Correct.
And how do you justify that?
Empathy.
Empathy. And do you think empathy is built into us via evolution and what's
Correct.
better for society?
I don't necessarily go off of what's better for society. What I do is empathy is the ability to look at things from the other person's perspective. And anytime we enter any kind of dialectic, if we're being rational, we're going to employ empathy, which means that when I am listening to you, I need to put myself in your shoes to try to understand your argument. Likewise, whenever we talk about things concerning morality, like for example, we were talking about slavery or the Holocaust. When it comes to slavery, if you and I are having a discussion about whether or not we're going to go enslave all the squirrels all around the world, we would need to take their argument, which is valid, into consideration. And if we refuse to take their argument into consideration, then we're acting irrational.
Why would you say that empathy is so empathy you think is bound to morality and you believe in objective morality, but you can't really provide any sort of basis on why human beings would have empathy.
Yeah, through
So
evolution, we've evolved with it
through
as a
evolution,
social
okay.
creatures.
Yeah.
And it's something that
So
we see
for
with with all social creatures. We see
yeah.
that they evolve with empathy, which means that when we're having a dialectic, when we're being empathetic, right, it means that there is something that goes off in our brain that triggers that, right? That's just subjective. It happens. Right now, let's say
And that's
somebody
not
is...
true. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
I would say that's not true for all social creatures. If you look at it, I mean, humans, of course, but if you look at other creatures who science objectively, or I guess axionomically says is social, you get animals like dolphins, which commit terrible acts to other dolphins, other animals,
Mm-hmm.
and engage in. If it were humans, we would consider it sexual immorality.
Mm-hmm.
They do atrocious stuff, and they don't really seem to show any sort of empathy.
Oh yeah, that's just because when it comes to nature, they do things differently than us. Our empathy has evolved differently than theirs, but they do show levels of empathy. It's just not the same kind of empathy that we would have. But that doesn't change the fact that we utilize empathy, that we have empathy, that we've evolved with empathy.
Yeah, I don't see how empathy would benefit the human species at all. I don't see how it could, and I've heard some very good arguments regarding how empathy could have helped with bringing societies together, but it's also hurt human beings. I think more in certain aspects than it's helped.
Well, hold on. So I never stated, nowhere did I state that like empathy is this thing that like is meant to necessarily help society. Sure, we can go through and have an argument, both be acting in empathy and come to a decision that maybe is not the greatest for society. That does happen. At that point, we just look at phenomenal conservatism, take a look at is it unnecessary harm? Because sometimes there's harms that are necessary, but then we just need to look, is the harm that's going to be caused an unnecessary harm? And then we would seek to reduce the unnecessary harm. But the counter argument is going to be with you where in the arguments that we're having is it could be, but when we look at the Bible and biblical morality, it is the case that biblical morality has harmed people, has hurt societies, has hurt cultures. It's completely erased and destroyed entire cultures.
Yeah, but you could say that's justified.
You think it's justified?
I would say so. I mean, if you want to give me a specific example, I could see if I could refute or justify it.
Yeah, so when we look at the spread of Christianity,
you were talking about slavery earlier.
Well, what we're going to talk about real quick is we're going to talk about the spread of Christianity throughout the Americas and the erasure and complete genocide that was committed on the indigenous peoples, which dropped their population numbers down to as low as 11% once upon a time.
Yeah, that's a terrible atrocity that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and it's absolutely awful, and I would never condone such a thing. However, I'm sure you know most of that was due to pretty much negligent giving people diseases, smallpox, and those types of issues.
Some of these things were done intentionally. Hold on. Some of these things were done intentionally. Some of these things were, they were done intentionally. Some of these were done in which people under manifest destiny, in which treaties were signed, in which the indigenous peoples that were signing these treaties didn't know what they said, had no idea what they said. They were lied to upon signing them, which forcefully removed them from the lands, oftentimes forced their culture to be eradicated, right? To where we had...
It's terrible, yeah. It's
yeah. And this was all done under Christian morality.
I was just refuting your point where you claimed you're right, and it's terrible. I was just refuting the point where you claimed that it was you I guess you alluded to the fact that it was Christianity that erased 89% of the indigenous population when that's not the case. But there is definitely cases where Christianity has hurt a lot of the Native Americans. And I totally agree with you, and I think that's terrible. But I would say in the total, especially in America, Christianity...
Well, you asked me for an example, so I gave you an example.
Yeah, I was just refuting the number that you gave me, that it was that the population went down to 11%, with you, I guess, alluding to the fact that it was due to Christianity, when in reality, I'm sure that, well, statistically, that was the smallest part of why the Native American population got wiped out.
No, that's not why. It's the spread of Christianity. Manifest Destiny was the document that allowed it to happen. It was a Christian document that allowed it to happen, that allowed people to intentionally do these atrocious things. It was through Manifest Destiny.
Okay, yeah, and you don't think that would have happened if it were a secular society back then? You don't think that that there wouldn't have been a desire to spread westward?
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I think there would have been, but it would not have been done utilizing the military, where the military partook in atrocious actions. I think we could have fostered better peace deals, better negotiations, had it been done other ways. But a lot of these things happened even before, like, the United States society spread westward. It was with other groups, other Christian groups coming in and trying to, again, spread Christianity, utilizing the Bible as their pew-pew to do so.
Understandable. Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. I would give you a example about how secular societies have, and especially through military force, have done a lot of this this mass
Now, the question that you're going to have to run
genocide
into,
issues.
now the question that you're going to run into, because if you're going to bring up Marxism, what you're going to do is you're going to bring up a group of people who did things, but it wasn't secular. When we take a look at, say, the USSR, we take a look at Nazi Germany, Italy, these weren't secular nations. These leaders wanted themselves to be essentially becoming the deity. Even though they didn't use the term deity, they wanted the worship and the glory. So these weren't true secular governments.
How is that not true secular?
Yeah, because once you institute the worship of a leader, like we see in like North Korea, where they worship their leader, where the leaders are expected to essentially take on deity status, while I wouldn't necessarily call it a true theism, it's not atheism either.
Well, what I guess we'll get into a parenthetical definitions. My definition for worship is to give ultimate authority. So if you're giving ultimate authority to a singular,
Mhm.
what's your definition for worship?
Yeah, let's take a look. What would I give a definition for worship? Yeah, the act of expressing reverence, respect, and devotion towards deity, secular power, or being accepted as holy. And I'd even add to a person, right? And so as soon as we start doing this, we would then be stepping away from secularism and entering into a pseudo-theism, right? So that's why I wouldn't say that these were atheist movements.
Well, with that logic, then everybody who is an atheist would be technically a theist, because everybody has some sort of. I mean, the real definition of worship is to give its due. That's the real definition, and you see atheists do that. Secular people do that. For instance, you see people who follow the law. So they basically uphold the values of their nation. You also see a lot of Christians do that. They give themselves final jurisdiction.
We don't do it to an
over God.
individual, though, right? So the peoples, the countries, the governments that you were about to reference, though, were a case where these people are treating these government leaders as if they are deity, right? They put these leaders in as if they are deity, and the leaders expect to be treated as deity. So, like I said, while it's not true theism, it is a pseudo-theism, thus it is not true atheism, and thus it wouldn't fall under an atheistic worldview.
Then I guess I would say that's a false equivocation.
Yeah, on your part, I agree.
On my part, yeah. But I guess I would say that you are technically worshiping whoever you put into power. All right, no matter whether
No,
you're
we're
in
not
a
worshiping
secular
them.
society or.
I have absolutely no problem looking at the flaws, right, of people that I would vote for, right? So I voted for Harris. And I understand that Harris has flaws. Under no circumstance would you ever hear me say that Harris is flawless. And anytime Harris would make a mistake, you would see me there calling her out for any mistake that she makes, right? This isn't the same that is expected when it comes to these Marxist nations that you were trying to talk about, right? Because if you tried to do that, their followers would unalive you legally. So it just doesn't fall under the same thing.
I understand that. That's a good point. All right. I guess I would concede to that point. I'd have to study it further, but I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there another point that you want to bring up? I would say that.
Well, you've been trying so
Well,
far. You've been trying so far to like try to disprove like my moral standards. But let's get to what the actual topic is, right? So you wanted to talk about proving God. Let me ask you a quick question. And I'm going to ask you just a few. So I'm going to ask you just a few terms real quick, just to make sure you understand what they are. Are you familiar with what the term Occam's razor is?
I'm sorry, sir. I just sorry, I missed that. What did you say?
Do you know what Occam's razor is?
Occam's razor? No, I'm not familiar with that. No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm just plugging my phone in really quick.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
All right, sorry. I just realized it was on 1%. I'm not familiar with the terms Occam razor.
Okay, so Occam's razor is, the best way to describe it is, let's say you and I are starting in Miami, Florida, and we're driving to Spokane, Washington. And let's say Seattle. We're driving coast to coast. And I drive in a straight line, in 100% straight line. Now, when you were driving there, you're going to go all the way up to New York. You're going to go down to Texas. You're going to, you're just zigzagging. Going to stop at Zion's National Park. You're zigzagging. Now, let's say we are giving directions to somebody for the quickest way to get to Seattle from Miami. Whose map are we going to give? Are we going to give them my map, or are we going to give them your map?
Your map.
Yeah, my map, because it's the quickest way there. Your map does what's called added baggage. So what Occam's razor says is that whenever when we start at the same base point, and when we're trying to test out a hypothesis or any argumentation or anything, whichever one gets there without or with the least amount of baggage is just the one that we accept, because we're able to reach the same destination just with less baggage. So I'm going to give you a set of premises, and these premises, you can disagree with the premises, and then once we do the premises, I'll give you the conclusion. You can't argue the conclusion, you just argue the premises, and then I'll explain to you why through Occam's razor, God can't exist. So the first question that I have for you, it's not even a question, it's just a statement. And then I'm going to pause, and that'll give you a time to agree with it, or if you want to argue it, we can talk about it. So all creation entails a change of states.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that really quick?
Yeah, all creation entails a change of states.
Yes.
Okay.
Agree.
A change of states is the progression from one state to another state.
Yep.
The progression of states is time.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it is time. I would say it's bound by time.
So you don't believe that the progression of states is time?
That time itself is no. What type of time are you talking about?
Just time. Like time is just a progression of events. It's event, 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 event. That's time.
Are we getting into infinite regression here? Because I don't believe in infinite regression. No.
Well, what I'm don't try to say where I'm going with this, because I promise if you try to guess it, you're going to be wrong. You're not going to get it. You're never going to guess where I'm going.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to jump to conclusions.
No, you're good. You're good.
I guess I would say I'm unsure.
Okay. Well, essentially what this would show is that because time is the progression of states. You can't point to anything in time which doesn't show a progression of states. And this just shows that in order to create time, right? To create time takes time. Because you can't create time without time. Meaning that God could not have created anything, meaning that God couldn't have created anything, and the world that we live in is exactly the naturalistic world that we would exist if time has always existed, if the universe has always existed. The naturalistic world is exactly what we would expect. Thus, through Occam's razor, God has a bunch of added baggage. Thus, we reach the same conclusion with the universe being created and being where it is today, but God is like way up here with added baggage. Thus, due to Occam's razor, we eliminate God, we take the naturalistic universe, God doesn't exist.
Okay, and your premise is assuming that God is within the bounds of space and time.
Well, let's say
Am I
God
right?
is not within, let's say God is not within the bounds of our space and time, even within God's area, wherever God is at, in order for him to notice that there's an empty universe, to thought process empty universe, I want to create, then to move to create. These are all sequence of events that are happening within his mind. Thus, even within his mind, to notice no universe, to begin to create universe, shows a sequence of events within his mind. Thus, he can't create time because creating time requires time. Thus, he can't create thoughts.
It sounds a lot like infinite regression, which theism pretty much disputes if you believe in the scripturally supported idea that God is really out of time. I respectfully, I don't see where this is. I don't know.
Well, I'm a B theorist when it comes to time, so it fits perfectly well within my idea of time.
So you think that God is somehow bound by time? Not our
No, I don't
earthly
think
time.
I don't think God is bound by time. God is bound because he can't create time, because time requires time to create.
So time requires time to create. That kind of gets into infinite regression in my thought. So
Yeah, but
what
I'm
I
a
would
B
argue,
theorist when it comes to time, so infinite regression isn't a problem.
how is it not a problem? So has time always existed, or did it start at the Big Bang? Because
So yes,
explain that to me.
due to the quantum eternity theorem, it would just posit that as long as there's been a case of non-zero amount of energy, that the universe has just always existed. When we take a look at the DESI study, the Dark Energy Spectroscope Instrument study, it would show that the universe goes through a series of big bangs and big crunches, and it's just always been doing that, or could be the case that it's always been doing that. And we're just living in like this iteration of the universe. And it's just the case that the universe has just always existed. But again, with B theory of time, it's like infinite regression
Dude,
isn't a problem.
I don't see how that's not a problem, because if the universe had always existed, it has an infinite past. It would have taken an infinite amount of time to get to this point where we are today.
Well, that's if you're looking at A theory of time, but we're looking at B theory of time. So B theory of time, and I can show you, like, even within a linear model, I can show you how you can have infinite regression from one point to another. Like, even in your model, infinite regression exists. Do you want me to show you how?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so let's take it is 10:20 right now, and let's pretend we're going to reconvene in 5 minutes. Now, if we divide this in half. How many times can we divide it in half before we
You're gonna
reach
keep splicing and splicing.
correct? So even under your worldview, there's infinite time between 2 points of time.
I see where you're going with that. I
Mm-hmm.
understand. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I've actually thought about this a lot, especially with well, I guess I won't get into that. See, I'm not good enough at math or physics to really counter this. You know.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You're chilling. You're chilling.
So
But hey, I've had
I concede to this point.
Yep. But hey, I've had a great time talking with you. I do have other people in the box that I want to get to, but thank you so much for coming on up. Everybody, let's go ahead and give Matt some massive W's.
Hey, thank you, bro. I appreciate it. All right. God bless you and your audience. All right.
All right. We're going to go ahead and move on, and we are going to go ahead and bring up Luke on Video Ninja. You there, Luke?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. And let me... Okay, they should be able to hear you also. And how old are you?
I am 22.
All right, and are you a Christian?
Yes, I am. Yep.
All right, I believe Christianity is false. I want your strongest argument as to why Christianity is true.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of like Matt's approach, I do want to, I guess, stay in that camp a little longer. In terms of I want to focus first on kind of proving that there is a God versus necessarily trying to, I guess, affirm Christianity. Just because, I think you can pull in random examples from the Bible, but if we don't establish some type of common ground, then we're just going to disagree. So I think I would love to first establish common ground. And I know I overheard you talk about objective morality and how you agree with that on the basis of empathy. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I'm kind of looking to establish some common ground if that works for you.
All right, yep. What's your definition, real quick, of a god?
Yes. I think God actually sums it up perfectly. In terms of a definition of a God is it is the highest thing. It is something that is. And I think God has spoken this to Moses before. It's like, I am the I am. It's like, I am the pinnacle of all the things that exist. And that is something that I want to press in on initially, is just the cosmological argument. Because I don't know, I cannot wrap my head around this. And I've talked with a bunch of atheists before, and I haven't really gotten a good answer for if we can agree. And I guess first we have to agree: are there causes and effects in this universe? Like, does that exist in reality?
There are cause and effects, yes, but not everything has a cause or effect.
Okay, interesting. Like what things?
Yeah, so when we take a look at like quantum physics and quantum particles, there doesn't seem to be any cause to their upspin or downspin, right? There just seems to be no cause to it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely don't know enough about that, and I think we're still exploring that too. But is there anything where it's like, and not to like dumb it down per se, but is there anything that we can point to in the natural, I guess, easily observable world where we're like, oh yeah, that thing just came to be, or it is just because it is, versus, can we establish a chain of reason, a chain of, I guess a chain of causality?
Yeah, I would just say that the universe itself, I can see the universe, and it doesn't seem to have it seems to have never been created. We have theories for it. We have a model right now that's currently being done through the Deci study. So it seems to be that the universe itself just isn't created. It's just always existed.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that is definitely, I guess, the biggest thing,
Yeah, and
the
as a matter of
universe.
fact, real
Yeah.
quick, as a matter of fact, it's been proven that the upspin and downspin actually have no cause, because and it won a Nobel Prize when they actually figured this out.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. Yeah, I would love to look into that, because that would kind
And
of,
I will tell you right now,
I guess,
that's way
throw
above my
some
pay
wrenches. Yeah.
grade.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so no, I don't know, like, I guess speaking to a larger audience as well, just given cause and effect, if we can succumb to that, if we can kind of, okay, I agree that cause and effect does exist. Like, I am a byproduct of my parents, this apple is a byproduct of this tree, um, so on and so forth. It's like, okay, this thing came from that thing. And if we boil it all down, I'm not even going to attach the word God to it yet. I'm just going to say there is a pinnacle. Like, there is a thing to which it boils down to. Unless if we can give clear cut examples, like universe, it's so not clear cut. Like, I want something that we can easily understand, where it's like everybody agrees that, a pillow is a pillow, or that a computer is a computer. Like, this is kind of the fundamental, like, how it works. But it's like the universe, it's so vast, it's so mysterious. So yeah, I don't think there's anything that we can point to per se. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can respond to that.
Yeah, we can talk about like radioactive decay. There's seems to be no cause for radioactive decay.
Yeah, that is still I guess I don't know much about radioactive decay. Um but I would love to stay, I guess, in this cause, and like, I see all of, I'm gonna call it creation, but all of existence, to be this sort of hierarchical structure. I guess, would you agree with that? Would you see existence as this hierarchy?
Well,
Or
I would
maybe
just
sub
say that it exists.
hierarchies?
Well, what do you mean? Can you give me an idea of this? Like what you
Yeah,
mean? Give
so
me
I
some
guess,
examples.
like, sub hierarchies could be your family unit. Like, you see your
Hmm.
family tree, and that's a sub hierarchy. You see cause and effects within just that system, within just your family.
Sure.
So that would be a sub hierarchy. But would you say that there is a existence hierarchy?
An existence hierarchy? Sure. To a point, yeah, I'd say sure. But I'm not going to grant that for the universe.
How would you distinguish, I guess, existence from the universe?
Because it could be the
Just
case
like
that
things becoming, yeah.
well, yeah, because it could be the case that like the universe could have just always existed, that it was never created. It's just always existed, right? And the way we know if it's just always existed, and we know that if it has existed, if there is any matter involved in something just having always existed, then there are emergent properties as a result of that, such as dark energy, gravity, and other forms of physics. And thus, the universe could have just always been going through a series of big bangs and big crunches.
Yeah, but I guess, I think we are jumping ahead a little to, like, specifics on kind of those, I guess, physical anomalies, just with dark matter and all this stuff that we're still, again, and there might be, quote unquote proofs for this. But I still want to focus on the hierarchies. Like, if we can agree that, again, sub hierarchies, we agree that those exist. Like, a family tree is a family tree. We all understand, as long as we're not like infants, we all understand that, okay, there is a hierarchy in a family structure. There is a hierarchy in how a computer is made, all the components of that. There is a hierarchy of a government branch, and kind of it's okay, here's the elected, but here's everything. And I think there is a hierarchy of even things that we see in nature, not just I guess human made things.
Now, is there
So it's like,
inherently a
okay, we can,
hierarchy? Is there inherently a hierarchy, or are these just a hierarchy that we assign?
well, and that's a good, and that's where we can kind of test these, like, I guess, could some of these sub hierarchies cease to exist, or are they always going to be a thing? Like, are family trees going to always exist, or could it be like randomly one day it just doesn't follow by the rules that it always followed by? Could humans just pop out of nowhere, kind of thing?
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like these hierarchies exist, and there are rules within these hierarchies that it's like, yep,
so real
parents
quick
have
though.
to. Yes.
Well, just real
Yeah.
quick. So we're going to some like false dichotomies here, right? So the issue that you're going to run into is that if the universe has just always existed, going through a series of big bangs and big crunches, right? The issue that you're going to run into is that, one, we have nothing else to compare anything to. We don't have another. Oh, hold up. Gotta go fix a puzzle on TikTok real quick. Gotta wait for this puzzle to load,
Yeah.
or it'll
All good.
on TikTok. While I'm waiting for this to load, though, the issue that you're going to end up running into, though, is the case that, like, if the universe has just always existed, right, we have nothing else to compare it to, right? There's not another universe that we could go and look at and be like, are these things that we're noticing, these hierarchies that we think are hierarchies, are they actual hierarchies? We have nothing to compare it to, right? We only have this universe. So whereas we can look at everything else that you've pointed to, literally everything else that you've pointed to, we have other things that we can like look at and compare it to. So these are issues that you run into in this worldview.
Got it. Yeah. So observation through the scientific method, you would say, is observing kind of, I guess, patterns in these things. And that would be the I guess, structure of hierarchy. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, what I'm saying is that there's nothing that we're able to compare this universe to, right? And so you just run into a false dichotomy because everything else that you're pointing to, we have things that we can compare them to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Yeah, and it's like, okay, what is, and I'm trying to think of kind of the makeups of the universe. It is space, it is time, it is characteristics, and it's like, could a family structure per se be essentially a universe in and of itself? Just on
No.
a like, I guess, on a metaphorical level, could itself be a universe?
No, that's silly.
And why not?
That's-
What characteristics are missing that the universe has that a family structure doesn't, on the metaphorical sense?
Oh yeah, families have cause and effects, and it appears to be that the universe doesn't.
Okay, yeah. But it is, I mean, what would you say the universe is? Like, can you provide a definition for the universe?
Yeah, the
Or maybe you
universe
can't.
would.
Maybe that's the
Yeah, no, the universe would just be space and time.
Okay, yeah. And I guess those space and time have definitions tied to them that are, I guess, you could say objective truths. Would you say is space and time, like, they are? Yeah, they are objective truths. Would you agree with that?
Wait, say that again.
Space and time is objectively true. Like, those things objectively exist.
Space and time?
Yes.
Yeah, I say they objectively exist.
Yeah. So, and back to your time thing, I think the Occam's razor was interesting. It's like, okay, you need time to create time. But it's like, in order to create time, you can either have time to create time or have something that is timeless to create that time. And I guess, that there is only, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you've probably thought about that before, like a timeless thing creating time, something that is outside of that hierarchy creating the hierarchy.
Yeah, so the issue that you are just going to end up running into is, like I mentioned before, is that even within God, God is a mind. So for a thought process to occur requires time.
I wouldn't say God is a mind. No,
You don't think God's a mind?
no,
God does. So what is God?
no. I mean, it is something immaterial. A mind is something
A mind
material,
is
unless if you use
immaterial.
it in like the
No, a
metaphorical.
mind itself
Okay,
is immaterial,
in a
right?
metaphorical sense. Okay.
Yeah, we'd be
Well,
talking
are
about
you
like a
referring to like?
brain. A brain is physical.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. But no, I would say our minds specifically are bounded by, our brain in the, I guess, the rate of which our neurons can fire. It's like that is a bound that we have. But if something has a mind, and sure, I can agree with you. Let's say God has a mind. If therefore God is immaterial, he is not bounded by the physical thing of the neurons firing, and thus it does not create time. So I guess that is kind of fleshed out in that little corner of just God having a mind. If he is immaterial, it does not create time. Would you agree with that?
Well, the mind still exists though, so the thought processes would still be there, so you don't get around it.
What do you mean by exists? What do you mean by exists though? Like it doesn't exist in the physical world.
Yep. Hold on one moment. So TikTok right
Yeah,
now,
for
for TikTok, just so you know, I have Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is running. I have the puzzle piece, and I've been trying to fulfill it because so the way TikTok works is if it detects like inactivity, it has us fill out puzzle pieces, to say like, hey, are you still here? And every time I try to fill in the puzzle piece, it keeps doing this thing where it's like, you have no internet connection. So TikTok, I might lose you here in a minute. So I might need to do, if you do get dropped, you guys can all either go and hop on over to YouTube, or I will immediately restart. As a matter of fact, YouTube, I'm just going to restart. Right now. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. TikTok, just come right back. All right. So yeah, no, I would say that as God being a mind, it still has to go through thought processes. That's the purpose of minds, are to think
Got it.
and to
Yeah.
act.
I would disagree that, because I think you are referring to a mind as something that is physically bounded. But I guess if we agree, and by your point of view, it would be, if you were to take on the perception that God is real and that God is immaterial, and that he has a mind, he is not bounded by time with his mind per se.
Wait,
I
what
guess,
would
and
what would
that's
make well, no, the issue that you're running into though, right, is I would grant you, like in this instance, God would be the mind without a brain. Because if I step into the worldview, then God doesn't have a body. But that's not going to get you around what the purpose and the function of a mind is.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess a better way to kind of I guess conceptualize God in this way is I think of gravity and just kind of the I guess the constants of the universe, like magnetism, and it's just like all these unified constants. It's like, do we really know them? Like, are they real, or do we just experience their fruits? Do we experience their outcomes? Like, do we actually know gravity? And is gravity real, or is its outcome real? And I
Well,
think
these
that can
are
easily be related to God. It's like, is God real, or is the outcome real? Well, if the outcome is real, it's like, okay, we can perceive that these things are real, that if I, drop a pencil, it falls. It's like, if these fruits of the thing is real, then the fruit itself is real. Would you not agree with that? I guess in terms of gravity.
Yeah, but you just need to tie this to God, right? Because again, we have evidence, we have theories, we have evidence that the universe has just always existed. We have evidence right now to show that it does go through a series of big bangs and big crunches through the Deci study. I don't know if you've studied the Deci study, but we've just got evidence of these things just being true, or being evident that they are true.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I have not personally followed that study.
So what the DESI study is, it stands for Dark Energy Spectroscope Instrument. And essentially what it is it's a big, huge telescope that for about the last 6-7 years has been doing constant mapping of the known galaxy and
Yep.
everything that it can see. The known universe. And have you ever heard the term redshift?
I have before, but not in this context, I don't believe.
Okay, redshift is how we know the universe is still expanding. So if you walk away from me and we record that and we use fancy instruments, we'll detect a redshift. So redshift just detects objects moving away from each other. And you can use redshift and use a spectroscope. And depending on what the redshift looks like, you can determine speed. And so what the DESI has been doing for the last about 6-7 years has been doing constant 3D mapping of the known universe. And it's been tracking the redshift. And what it shows is that the redshift seems to be decelerating. And if it is the case that the redshift is decelerating, then that means that the universe will expand, but if it stops, it's going to contract, right? Now, they don't know why it seems to be decelerating. It could be because of gravity. It could be because of the nature of dark energy. It just could be just how dark energy reacts. They don't know why, but it seems to be decelerating. If it decelerates and it stops, it's going to collapse in on itself. And if this is the case,
yeah, and that is interesting. I've never heard that before, and I obviously don't want to put I don't want to put God in I guess in the box of ignorance. Like, well, I don't know how this works, so God must be the creator of this. I think a lot of atheists have heard that before. But I guess are we certain that as it decelerates, are we certain that it will collapse on itself, kind of thing? It's like,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, and I guess
Mainly. Yeah, and that
go
would
ahead.
just be because as it expands, there is enough mass inside to where gravity would just, if there's nothing causing it to expand, then because of the gravity that is in there, the masses would start to contract in on each other.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I did want to focus on, again, I think you are debating within a hierarchy that you try to already establish, without actually, I guess, having the foundation to establish it. And what I mean by that is, like, I think that it is possible for someone or something to be a part, or sorry, to create a hierarchy and not be a part of those rules. And an example of this would be, again, I'm going to go back to a computer, right? If a human makes a computer, the human is not bound by the rules of a computer per se. It's like a human has created that hierarchy. And obviously that is a sub hierarchy within the vast, I guess, existence hierarchy. But it's like they are not bounded by those rules. And in the same way, how could it not be? And I'm going to say, how could it not be possible? Again, I just want any sort of like, how could it not be possible? Like even a glimpse of possibility, a sliver of possibility. That, and I guess are and there's a follow-up question there too. Like, are you 100% certain that you are an atheist? But how could it not be possible that God, who is outside of that hierarchy, or this thing that we call God, created the hierarchy that we are in now?
Oh yeah, because again, it seems to me that it would be the case that God, still having a mind, still needs to create, and to create time requires time.
No, but we already disproved the time argument with the mind thing. And
How?
remember, we are out, like if we assume that he is immaterial and outside of this, so yeah, this God, well, we first have to assume that there is a thing outside of hierarchy, and that can exist within sub hierarchies, right? Or a person is
So hold on,
outside the
Let me ask you. Hold on. Let
sub-hierarchy
me
of a
ask you
computer.
another question.
Yep.
Okay. So God being a mind, being in essence, being something, right?
Yep.
Has to exist somewhere, right? It can't just exist in like nothingness. It has to exist somewhere, right?
No, that is not true. I mean, that is related to the immaterialness. It is almost like gravity. It's like, okay, well, where is gravity? It's like, well, gravity just is. It's not like it exists somewhere. It is immaterial,
Well, we
but you
can
see
measure
the fruits of it.
gravity. Well, what I'm saying
Yes,
is that
exactly.
like
Yeah.
everything can still be measured, right? So gravity still exists somewhere. It exists in our reality, right? If I hold this up and I go to drop it, gravity exists between it. So we do know where gravity exists. Gravity can't
Yeah,
exist in
yeah.
nothingness, right? So likewise, God can't just exist in nothingness. Wherever God's essence is, has to be something, so that wherever
Yes,
God
yep.
is at needed to be created before God could occupy it. Meaning, right? Meaning that you're then going into the realm of God not existing, right? Because if God's not there to create the space, then God just can't exist, right?
Yeah,
And then you're going to
then that
step
kind of
into the
leads to
realm
the infinite
of,
regression thing. And I know you talked about that last conversation where it's like
yeah, B theory of time,
time.
but
Yep.
But what you're
And
going
I
to run
guess,
into, though,
yeah.
is so what you're going to be able to run into is, right, because I will grant you the same thing that I grant for the universe, right? If I'm just going to grant that the universe has just always existed, right, then I would grant that God always existed, right? And then we get into the argument of like morality and some other arguments, right? But in order for this God to exist, then I also have to grant that other gods exist, right? I can't just grant your God exists. I have to grant that all gods exist.
Oh, no.
And
Yeah,
then
for
it
sure. Yep.
yeah, then it turns into an argument of you proving that Yahweh is the true
Yes.
God and none of the other gods, right? But by time
Yep.
you get done proving all of that, again, due to Occam's razor, the naturalistic approach still has less baggage. Thus, I'm just going to take the less baggage. That's the map I'm giving to people.
Yeah, and when you were explaining that example of the less baggage, it's like, okay, I want to get from A to B. And I guess we can also go into the conversation of okay, let's just, put it on the shelf that, okay, does God or a God exist? Does it not? And then why the Christian God? I think those are two completely different conversations. And I'd love to kind of,
Yeah.
have
But
that
hey,
conversation about,
real
yeah.
quick, I do have other people waiting though. I do
Yes,
appreciate
okay.
you. I do appreciate you coming up. I am going to move on though. But let's give Luke
sure.
some massive W's as well. Luke has been in the box total for like 1 hour and 28 minutes. So let's give Luke some
No way. Oh, yeah, I have,
massive
yeah.
W's. So, all right, we're going to
Yeah.
go ahead and move on to Jonathan. How you doing, Jonathan?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Evan, can I get an age?
Yes, I'm 32 years old.
All right, and are you a Christian?
Yes, I'm a Christian.
All right, so I believe that Christianity is false. What's your strongest argument or evidence for Christianity being true? And just for those that are in here right now, we've already had 2 discussions trying to talk about the existence of God. So we're going to put those on the back burner for right now. Right now, we're just going to be focusing on Christianity itself.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there's a lot of reasons and strong arguments for Christianity. I think one of the main ones is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I think that's without a doubt historically proven as well.
Oh, can you give me any evidence that the resurrection has historically been proven?
I mean, one, you have the whole evidence of biblical canon. You have the New Testament and the 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that.
And what's the
within
evidence that
itself-
those were written? What's the evidence that those were written in the 1st century?
Well, church, yeah, church. It's the evidence that I guess they were. I can't really say can't really like prove that they were actually written, but they were without a doubt proven within written within the 1st century.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you know who the first church father to definitively like give any mention somewhat to the Gospels?
Any mention to the Gospels? I want to say was it Augustine that gave mention to the Gospel?
It was Justin Martyr. Justin Martyr was the first one to make, and he refers to them as the memoirs of the Gospels. Right. So this is well after, right? So the question is going to be why is it that we don't have any of the early church mentioning up until Marcion, right? Before Marcion, we have nobody talking about Paul, certainly not Paul, no mention of the Gospels at all before Marcion. These are all issues, right? These are all things that would lead me to believe that the Gospels were written in the 2nd century. And even modern day scholars hold that the Gospels weren't written until around 70. The earliest, which is Mark, was written around 70.
Yeah, yes. So Mark was written about 70, which, it's within the 1st century of a couple years.
Well, that's what historians agree to based on a concession, right? Do you know what that concession is?
Not too sure.
It's the temple. It's the destruction of the temple. It's because early historians that were Christian, wanted to hold that it was in 70, right? They would have loved to get it sooner, but those that weren't buying it were like, nah. So they kind of just guessed on 70. But what's to stop it from being placed in 80, in 90? After the turn of the century, what's to say that it is the case that Mark wasn't written after the 1st century and is written to appear to be before?
That it wasn't written to appear before.
Can you rephrase
that?
Yeah. So let's say it was written in like 105. I'll just grant. Let's say written in 105, but whoever wrote it is writing it to make it appear it was pre-70. And we have evidence of this in other scriptures in the Old Testament. We know that it's a type of genre.
Yes. But then you have Paul, writing, he has pre-Pauline hymns, that predate Paul, which definitely, they show the gospel pretty much. I think it's in First Corinthians that it's a hymn, even the gospel was, it predates what was written in
Can you
Matthew,
show
Mark, Luke,
me
and
any? Can you show me any church fathers or any Christian documents before the 130s? Because that's when Marcion does. And just so you know, the first time we get any mention of Paul was through Marcion. He was deemed a heretic, but it was through the Apostolicon. Can you show me any evidence before about 135 of Paul being mentioned by any church fathers?
No.
So you're telling me that this man who was running around the Roman Empire setting up churches all over the place has zero mention before 135?
Before 135, I mean, not necessarily that he didn't have any mention before 135.
Yeah, find me any mention of Paul before 135. I can give you a few minutes to go look.
Any mention of Paul before 135? Paul.
More so before Marcion, because we get his mention. We get his mention from Marcion.
Right. I mean, the book of Acts is one of them. I mean, you have Paul's whole missionary trip in Acts, and that's pretty much the whole Paul's ministry is in the book of Acts, and that was written before 130.
And that's before 130?
The book of Acts, yes, that was written before 130.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, it was it was a second. They attribute that to Luke's second continuation of the Gospel of Luke.
So the question that I would have for you is, do you know who Luke and Acts are written to?
Who Luke and Acts were written to?
Yeah, if you go look at Luke chapter 1.
Right?
Yeah, Theophilus. Do you know who Theophilus is?
I believe he was definitely Greek.
Yeah, he was Greek. Do you know when he lived?
I do not know when this Theophilus lived.
In the mid-2nd century. It's probably Theophilus of Antioch. The only other Theophilus that we might have was the high priest Theophilus, but he ceased being the high priest in 41, so it makes no sense for Paul to be writing to him, and it's even argued whether or not he was actually a high priest or if there was like a scribal error somewhere. But he's in 41 is when he stopped being the high priest. Makes no reason to write to him. He no longer bears a title, and he passed away right around the time that these were being written, so it couldn't be him. The only other Theophilus that we know of in history is Theophilus of Antioch, written in the mid-2nd century, or who lived in the mid-2nd century. That's the only other Theophilus. The next question that you would have is the book of Acts was written after Paul. Why doesn't the Acts, it's being focused on Paul's ministry, but why doesn't it make any mention of his letters? It doesn't make a mention of one. If these letters are already circulating and widely being used in churches, why does Acts not mention them?
Well,
they only become prevalent in the mid-2nd century.
Yeah. So the Theophilus, I want to touch on that. The Theophilus, I mean, they had many people named, who shared the same names. I don't think it's necessary to say that he was, writing to someone in the 2nd century, because of that fact that, that they shared the second names. And I
Well, he
also
calls
don't
him the
think that
most. He calls him the excellent or most high. Depends on the translation, but it
the
has an
most high, right?
honorific title. So, in order for that honorific title to fit, it would be somebody in history that we'd have evidence of. But we don't have any evidence of this.
Right, right. Well, yes, I don't think that we need that. It would be necessary to actually prove who that Theophilus was. I mean, there's
Well,
enough
it
internal
is if we
evidence.
have, it would be if we have a Theophilus that lives in the mid second century. And it turns out that Luke and Acts is written in a more sophisticated Greek, right? It's not written like in the other Greek that we see the other Gospels written in. So it's written in a form that would be, that's more difficult to read. So it would have to be written to somebody of stature, right? And it turns out
Right.
that this does fit Theophilus of Antioch, right?
Well,
But
yes.
again, you'd still also have to admit or acknowledge, why does Acts not make any mention at all of Paul writing all these letters, and we don't even see these letters being mentioned by anybody until the mid second century?
Right. Now the type of Greek that Luke uses is almost similar to the type of Greek that Paul uses. It's a Koine Greek, which of course is not similar to the ones in the four Gospels, and there are
Well, no, it's all
reasons
Koine
for that.
Greek. It's all the same Greek. It's all the same Greek. That's just a time era Greek. But the Greek that he uses is a more sophisticated form of it, right?
Yes, similar to the ones in the Pauline epistles. And the reason why the Pauline epistles are not mentioned in Luke, I
Oh,
want to
not
say it,
Luke. I'm
it
talking about
I mean
Acts.
in Acts, well, Acts was written by Luke. And the reason
Yeah, but
why
that's
they're
what I'm talking about. Why aren't they mentioned? Because it was written after
right,
Paul.
right. Because I don't think that he has to mention. I don't think that they necessarily have to be mentioned. I mean, he doesn't. You know, you don't see. For example, uh, the 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 epistles written by John, the letters written by John, they don't mention any other letters circulating around that time. And I want to say because these letters were written in separate parts of that time, they were written in different regions of the Middle East. And so for letters to travel in that time was not as easy as letters can travel now. And so you had to pass some time for those letters kind of to reach other places, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're not mentioned in there. He probably had no notion of those letters as they were circulating
Hold
through
on.
other
He
regions.
writes. Hold on. He writes Acts after Paul has already been unalived. There's no more letters being written, right? If you remember, Acts ends with Paul being arrested in Rome, right? And so this means that Luke was privy to all this information. Luke would have known that he had written these letters, right? But we have no mention of any of these letters. And I think this is problematic for Acts being placed in the second century. I believe it's more likely that Acts was placed in the mid second century along with Luke. Again, we have no mention of the Gospels until Justin Martyr, and they don't even get named until Irenaeus in 180. Oh, are you there? Jonathan, are you there? All right, we're gonna move on. I don't know what happened with him. We're gonna pop on over here to TikTok. And everybody, we have 64 people over on YouTube. I've got 75 on TikTok. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Yeah, he must have got raptured. Like, I don't know where he went. And JL, thank you for the roses. Everybody who's supporting, I appreciate it. And hold on, if you're in the guest box for TikTok, leave a message in the chat so I'll bring you up. My guest box doesn't want to pop up. And if you see Knight in chat, give Knight a follow. Knight will probably pop over to YouTube. Make sure that you give Knight a follow. And I believe his name is Night Shift over on YouTube. All right. St. Ansem, if you want to drop, your box isn't popping up for me to bring you up. Let me see. Try this again. Yeah, if you want to hop out of the guest request and then hop back in, it'll pop up a little. Oh, there we go. There we go. We got you. Should be able to accept you now. YouTube is being, or TikTok's being finicky tonight. There we go. And let me make sure.
Hello.
Hello. I gotta do a quick switch over here for the audio real quick so that the chat can hear you. Oh, where'd you go? Did he just drop? I'm gonna bring him back up. You were up and then you dropped. And everybody, I'm at 89 subscriptions right now on TikTok. I would love to get up to over 100. I would love to do that. Saint Anselm, hop out of the box, hop back in. I'll see a thing pop up across and I'll bring you up. Joe, have Cliff come up here. I would love to chat with him. Man, I am. All right, TikTok's not cooperating. I tried to bring you up. Type in this link. Go to this link and I'll bring you up over on Video Ninja. Just frustrating. Super frustrating. I clicked the box to bring him over or to change the audio so TikTok doesn't get the echo. All right. Yep. Go over there. I'll look for you over there. Just make sure you use the same name and I'll bring you on over. So I'm only going to be live for about another 45 minutes. I'm just going to wait for what's his name to pop up over here. I see to wait for his name to pop up. Oh, I think this is him. Might be J-Bar. How you doing, J-Bar?
Oh, hang on. Can you hear me?
Yep. Did you come on over from TikTok?
No, I came from YouTube. Sorry. I was just having.
Oh.
I didn't know if.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. I'm looking for. Oh, here we go. Here he is. Hey, how you doing, Saint?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can I get your age?
Yeah, I'm already 23.
All right, and are you a Christian?
Yes, I am a Christian.
All right. And what is your strongest argument that Christianity is true?
Okay. I do have arguments that Christianity is true, but I want to focus on God debate topic. Do you debate God topic?
Not right now. I've debated the existence of God for a few other arguments. You can come back probably another night to debate that. Right now, I do want to get in a few debates where we are debating whether or not Christianity is true or not.
All right. Okay. Okay. So my first argument is that Jesus historicity. If Jesus did not exist, then definitely Christianity is false. And Jesus exists, therefore Christianity is true.
Oh, how does that follow? That just doesn't follow. Because I would just say that we have historical documentation that Hercules existed. And if Hercules existed, then Greek mythology is true. We have historical documentation of Hercules, thus Greek mythology is true. It just doesn't follow.
Most scholars, biblical scholars, would say that Jesus did exist. Even atheist historian, like atheist scholar like Bart Ehrman, Maurice Casey, they do agree that Jesus exists.
Yeah, and there's historians that agree that Hercules existed. We have their writings. In fact, we have letters from Hercules and to Hercules from his family. But we know these to be fake. We know them that they're not real. But again, this doesn't show that Christianity is true. But let's say for this argument, I'm going to grant you that Jesus does exist. How does Jesus existing prove that Christianity is true?
Of course, existence of Jesus alone does not really prove Christianity is true. But if we add some elements like the empty tomb or the rise of Christianity and the early persecution or the martyrdom of early Christians, it will definitely point out to the truth of Jesus, to the truth of
let's talk
Christianity.
about so let's tackle those down first. Let's talk about the martyrdom of early Christians. What is your actual evidence that say the early Christians? Now, what I will say is I am not talking about 3 to 6 years before Constantine. I'm not talking about that time period. During that time period, there was a definitive law that states that Christians were to be persecuted. What I'm talking more is before then, after 65 with the burning of Rome. What is your evidence that Christians were actually persecuted and not prosecuted for breaking laws that already existed that also applied to the Jews and to other peoples that did not want to bend knee to the Roman gods?
Is it not written in the Bible that James, the brother of Lord, sorry, I'm not. I'm talking about a different James here, who was stoned to death, and also Paul and Peter got beheaded by Nero, and we do have historical evidence.
Well, Peter was crucified upside down, if you remember the story of Peter, but it's not found in the Bible. It's found in the Acts of Peter, I believe. The Acts of Peter, which is an apocryphal book, states that he was crucified upside down, so he wasn't beheaded. But James, it depends on what source you go to. Different church fathers mention different ways that James was unalived. Some stories say he was unalived by stoning. Another story says he fell off a wall, like he was pushed off a wall, and that's what unalived him. Another story says he was pushed off the wall and it didn't unalive him, so they beat him with sticks. So it depends on which story concerning James. But none of these are written by like firsthand experience.
So you're not aware that I think it's Tacitus that wrote that Paul and Peter got beheaded by Emperor Nero.
Tacitus wrote that? Yeah, where'd Tacitus write that?
I cannot remember. I think, yeah, I think it's Tacitus who but you can Google just to make sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. No, Tacitus does not mention Peter or Paul once in his writings, turns out.
Um, but how come the tradition that Paul and Peter get, beheaded by Nero emerge if they don't really happen?
There
Like
is no Christian
literally.
tradition that, hold on, there is no Christian tradition that Peter was beheaded by Nero. The Christian tradition is that Peter was going to be crucified, and Peter requested to be crucified upside down because Jesus was crucified right side up. So Peter did that out of respect for Jesus. But there's no, as a matter of fact, outside of Christian theology and Christian sources, there is actually no mention of any of the disciples or the apostles outside of Christian sources. There's not a single historian that writes about them.
Right. I can agree that outside we don't have like a first century extra non-biblical source for them, for the disciples. But because I think you're
I just want evidence
treating
of Christian
those.
persecution.
I'm sorry.
I just want evidence of Christian persecution.
Well, I think I need to research on that. But what I'm pointing out is that we're treating New Testament manuscripts as, like a unified textbook, because you have to
I'll treat
understand
them
that.
individually. I treat them individually.
Right, and those are different manuscripts, the epistles of Paul, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John.
Hmm.
So it's like you do have plenty of manuscripts
And this
supporting
is a
that there is
wild
this
pivot. This is
Jesus.
a wild pivot. Like, chat, I am so sorry. You're going to need to give chat your insurance information because of how wild of a pivot you just made with jumping from your claim that Christians were persecuted to the manuscripts. Are you familiar with who Pliny the Younger is?
Yes, and Pliny the Younger talks about Christianity, the early, I think the early mention of Christian.
Yeah, so let's talk about this real quick. So when does Pliny write?
Like between first century and second century, I cannot remember.
111. He writes Emperor Trajan in 111. Now, Pliny the Younger had been a senator. At this time, he's a governor. He was the lawyer for Rome. Like, he was the emperor's lawyer. In fact, Emperor Trajan writes to him and refers to him as his secondist. He is literally viewed as second in command of all of Rome. Now, what he does write about and what was law in Rome was, one, you were not allowed to meet as a group in Rome without a permit. Pliny writes how he had to break up a fire department because they didn't have a permit to form, and he had to break them up and he had to punish them because they broke the law. It's also the case that when we look at you were allowed to worship any religion you wanted. They didn't care. However, you had to at least bow a knee to the Roman emperor because he was viewed as a deity. And anybody who didn't, it didn't matter if you were Christian, if you were Jewish, if you were a Greek who refused to bow knee, if you were any of the conquered peoples that refused to bow a knee, you were also punished under this law that predates the Roman conquest. So it is the case that there is no Christian persecution. There's only Christian prosecution. Now with Pliny's letter, where do you live real quick? What country do you live in?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. What is a popular what's a popular sport where you live? Like, what's the most popular sport?
Football.
Like
Football,
football, like
the
soccer?
the British
Okay.
version.
Yeah. So, and do you play football? Are you a fan of it?
I watch football, yeah.
Okay, now if I was to write a letter to you knowing that you watch football, that you know the rules, you know the teams, right? I know that. Would you expect me to write a letter to you going into great detail what soccer or football is? Would you expect me to write a letter saying that?
Definitely, of course.
No. Like I understand that you know what soccer is. So let me rephrase. Would you expect me to write a letter as I'm trying to explain to you what soccer is, and I'm writing it to you like you don't know what it is? I'm like, they use a round ball that's checkered. They use cards for fouls. They're trying to kick this ball into a net. It's two teams.
Yeah.
Going into that detail. Would you ever expect me, if I know that you are extremely familiar with soccer or football?
No, of course. Of course.
Right?
No.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
expect that, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, now when Pliny writes to Trajan about Christians, and you're right, he is the first definitive term of the word Christian. You're right on that. But there's an issue with this. He goes into detail explaining what they do, right? And however, he doesn't mention Jesus. He just mentions they worship a Christ figure, but we have evidence of other Christ figures. There's Serapis, even Isis has been referred to as a Christ. Christ just means anointed, right? It's not a name, it's a title. So we've got evidences of Christ being used for other things. And it is the case that he's going into great detail about what Christians do, but no mention of Jesus, no mention of Judea, no mention of Jews, no mention of a crucifixion, no mention of a resurrection, no mention of baptism, like none of these key components, right? But he goes into great detail explaining what he does know. This isn't...
Basically what I'm seeing here is that it's an argument for silence. Like, just because Pliny the Younger did not mention, or we don't have any surviving manuscript about Pliny the Younger talking about Christianity or talking about Jesus, therefore it's not believable anymore that
No, it's
these things
only hold
happens.
on. It's only an argument of silence, right? It's only an argument from silence if it's what we would expect at the time, but we don't. We expect it at a much later date. All these items of Christianity pop up at a much later date, right? At an extremely much later date. What we do have evidence of is that other people at the time period were named Christ. In fact, when he mentions Christ, he mentions it as if the emperor knows who Christ is. Because again, this is a time period of mystery cults, right? There's mystery cults all over the place. And when he mentions Christ, he doesn't go into any more detail. Now, when Trajan, and he explains, he's like, hey, I had to torture them. They're good people. And he feels really bad about it. He feels bad. And he's writing to the emperor saying, should I continue down
Excuse
this
me?
path? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I really love to discuss with you, but I need to do something. I can go back later and we can continue, okay?
Okay, come
Thank
back
you.
tomorrow. Come back tomorrow.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
No problem. Okay, thank you.
All right, but real quick, just going to finish with you guys with Pliny's letter. This is 3 years before the Keto's War, the Second Jewish-Roman War. If there's any mention of this stuff, Pliny definitely would have taken interest in it. But the key part is that when Trajan responds back to Pliny, because this was his argument to persecution, Trajan says, leave them alone. Don't persecute them. Don't chase them. Don't hunt them down. Pliny found them because he found flyers on the ground. That's how he found them. And Trajan says, don't go off flyers, right? That's not how I want to run. And make sure that you're actually putting them through trial for actual crimes. If there's no actual crimes, let them go. Anyways, let's go ahead and bring Jeremy up. How you doing, Jeremy? Oh, I cannot hear you, Jeremy. Let me check your audio real quick. Here, I'm going to try to send you a request for this microphone. It's going to be your microphone array. Can you go ahead and say something, Jeremy? You there? All right, I'm not hearing you. I'm going to go ahead and drop you. Come back up. If I see you back up, I'll bring you right back. We're going to go ahead and move on to Donnie. How you doing, Donnie?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Can I get your age?
I'm 30 years old.
You're 30?
Yes, sir.
And are you a Christian?
I am.
All right, and what is your strongest argument for Christianity being true?
Well, I want to start with, are we having a logical debate or are we having a theological debate?
I'll take it in whatever direction you want to go.
Well, so I don't really like debating theology with Christians because we have to presuppose God, or excuse me, non-Christians, because we have to presuppose God for a theological debate. So for
Okay.
the sake of this argument, I would like to have a logical debate with you. So from a logical standpoint, I cannot prove Christianity in the same facet that you cannot prove Christianity is false. We have to make positive and negative claims and provide evidence, and there is insufficient evidence for the unknown.
Oh, I can, so what I can do is show that time cannot be created, and then utilizing Occam's razor, we would just say that God has too much added baggage, and thus I'd be justified in believing that the naturalistic universe has just always existed.
Yeah, so you're going to use the turtles all the way down argument.
Give me what you mean by that.
Yeah, so in ye old times...
I mean, I know what
before
turtles
we
all the way down means. I'm just curious what you mean by that argument.
So in ye old times, we have the understanding of Earth differently. And so when we argue, well, what is the Earth? If we say it's a turtle, okay, well, what's that turtle standing on? It's standing on another turtle. And what's that turtle standing on? It's standing on another turtle. So we're talking about regressive dialectics here.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. So where I'm going to go, I'm going to give you a syllogism. And you're familiar with what Occam's razor is, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a set of premises, and then through these, we'll use Occam's razor to throw God away. So do you believe that all creation entails a change of states?
I would say yes.
Okay. Is a change of states the progression from one state to another?
Sure.
Is the progression of states considered time?
Sure. I will agree with that one. Yep.
Okay. So the conclusion with this is that without you need time to create time, because time needs to be created, right? So in order to create time, you need time. Thus, if I believe that the universe has just always existed, right, which is my stance, the universe has just always existed. This is a naturalistic universe that we do know that through through quantum and special relativity. We know that space-time have always existed. They're intertwined. Thus, the naturalistic universe we live in has just always existed. The issue that you run into with God is that turns out that this progression of time takes place in a mind, where in the mind, in order for God to recognize an empty universe and then to move to create is a progression of states that requires time. Even if God is moving to create time, that requires time for him to create. Thus, God, through Occam's razor, God becomes extra baggage. We'll toss God out, and the naturalistic universe is what we have.
Okay, so that's a theological argument. I thought we were having a logical argument.
Well, no, it's not the theological. I used syllogism with logic to show that the naturalistic universe has just always existed, and that God just doesn't exist.
I'm a little lost. Could you rewind how you've proved that God does not exist with that statement?
Yeah. So what it's going to be is that because we know through general and special relativity that space and time are intertwined. And we know through the quantum eternity theorem and through the Deci study that the universe has always existed. And that goes through a series of big bangs and big crunches, right? Now, with that said, real quick, the naturalistic universe that we live in, all the atrocious things, the horrible things that we have is exactly what we would expect in a naturalistic universe, is exactly what we would expect. Now, on the God side of
Well,
things,
hold on. I'm going to stop you there for a second because that's mind projection fallacy.
how's that mind projection fallacy?
Well, mind projection fallacy is assuming a statement about an object describes an inherent property of the object rather than a personal perception. So your personal perception of time exists this way.
No, I said this is just what we would expect with the universe.
Right. It's what you would expect. That's psychologist fallacy.
And how so?
Because what I expect and what you expect are different things. It's subjective. Ultimately, what this question boils down to is we don't know. If it's a logical debate, we don't know. There's no point in arguing it.
No, we do know this is exactly what we would expect. We can support this through abiogenesis. Hold on. We can support this through abiogenesis, the mutation of cells, things that we're seeing happen every day, right? So the fact that evolution, this worldview and stuff shows that this is exactly what we can do. We can see where cells due to the sun mutate, skin cells mutate and become cancerous because of UV rays, right? So we see this happening, right? So it's not just me projecting, it's what we see occurring every day. We do know that the foods that we eat today, because of the high amount of chemicals that are in them, mutate our cells as well, right? So it's not just me projecting, it's exactly what we see happening today.
No, you're presupposing time though in all of this.
How am I presupposing time?
Right. Well, you have a presupposition of how time works.
Well, what we have is through quantum and special relativity that time and space are intertwined.
Hold on. I want to elaborate for you. So when we talk about special time and relativity, let's look at the observable universe because that's what we know, right?
Mhm.
What is observable. So let's suppose with me that there's a black hole at the edge of the universe, the observable universe, that is. And we can say that we know that a black hole has a sphere of influence. And we can say that we can observe that this black hole, its sphere of influence, expands beyond the edge of the observable universe. So now there's something that we know exists outside of our observations.
Yeah, but this isn't the case. We don't have this happening.
Right, but it is a possibility. We could see this happen.
Yeah, it's potentially possible that it does, but we don't see it, right? So this is where I think you'd be doing this.
That's a fallacy of probabilities. Just because something isn't happening doesn't mean it's not possible.
Correct, but where I'm going at with this, though, right, where this is at, is that you run into the issue, though, right, is that time is required to create time, right? And if time is required to create time, and sequence of events can occur within a mind, right, in order to acknowledge or notice that there's nothing, and then to move to create, and then to act create. These are all progression of states within a mind that requires time, and God needs time to create time, so God can't create time. Thus, God doesn't exist.
So let's look at it from a video game perspective. Okay, let's talk about video games, right? Because a computer programmer can make a video game, right?
The
And they
computer,
can-
this would be non-analogous because the computer programmer is operating within time to create that game. Even if God is outside of our time,
Well-
wherever God is at will require time to have these progression of states within his mind to create.
Okay, so I'm not arguing with you about whether or not time exists as a concept, which it seems like you were trying to say here. Time exists as a concept, and as such, God cannot exist because God must be within time, right?
Doesn't well what I'm saying is he doesn't necessarily have to be within our time, but wherever God is at has to be within a time, and thus God can't create time without time.
Okay, but how does that disprove God? God's version of time being different than ours doesn't mean
It-
that he doesn't exist.
It's irrelevant if his time is different than our time. Time would still be a progression of states, and he can't have that progression of states unless time exists.
So when we talk about the universe and special relativity, have you seen the arguments for us living within a simulation?
Sure, but nobody takes those seriously.
Can you define nobody?
Yeah, no, like, can you name any like serious physicists who
I'm
take
not the one making
simulation
the positive
theory?
claim. You are. You've made the positive claim that no one takes it seriously. Who is it?
Oh, let me oh yeah, I can say this.
Do you have some Jeopardy music you could put on?
I should. I would, but it turns out that Jeopardy music is actually copyrighted. I played it once, and it got my YouTube video demonetized, so I had to go mute it. Oh yeah, so we just go with Sabine Hassenfelder. Doesn't take it seriously.
Okay, so that's one person, and so we can agree then that there is what we would call the inflation of conflict fallacy that you're using. That just because experts don't agree on a scenario doesn't mean that it can't be drawn to as a logical conclusion.
Yeah, but do you know the problems with simulation theories?
Oh, I'm aware, but I'm not the one making a positive claim. You are.
So yeah, so the issue is that it challenges the laws of nature and the laws of physics, and these are the issues that we'd have with it. It also causes issues with quantum mechanics and all sorts of things. So you just need to posit how it could be true.
Right, we can pause it, but again, that's going to be a fallacy of probability. Just because something is more or less likely doesn't mean that it is inherently or inherently not true.
Oh yeah, so then we're just going to go back to, again, Occam's razor, and Occam's razor is just going to say, again, even under simulation theory, you're just going to have to show how simulation theory would not have the added baggage due to Occam's razor that the naturalistic universe that we live in has.
Right, but my whole argument is when we apply Occam's razor, the simplest solution is we don't know.
No, all the science and stuff that we have seems to point to the naturalistic universe that we live in, seems to be the case that this is what we would expect.
Okay, but so again, that's mind projection fallacy.
It's not a mind projection because we have the evidence that supports it.
Okay, so but you're presupposing this is the way that it works, that our observations are correct. Logically speaking, when it comes to the question of God, agnosticism is the only true answer for theists and non-theists. We
Hold on,
cannot
hold
prove.
on. I'm a phenomenal conservative, right? So under phenomenal conservatism, I am justified in believing that my seemings seem real. So under phenomenal conservatism, I'm justified in holding this stance.
Well, so then you're not applying Sagan standards. Positive claims require positive evidence.
I did. The positive evidence is when we look at the physics, when we look at the science and all these other things, it seems to point to that the world that we live in is exactly what we would expect it to be.
Sure, and that's why I don't fault you for feeling the way you do. But when you die, you don't know what happens. That's my whole argument here, is that you're saying Christianity is false and there is no way to prove it. You have made a positive claim of Christianity being false, and I'm saying you can't prove that.
I did. I just did, utilizing Occam's razor through showing that God can't create time because it turns out it requires time to create time. And through Occam's razor, the naturalistic universe that we live in seems to be the reality of the fact. And that has less baggage. And I can justify that through phenomenal conservatism, that my seemings seem real.
Which again is why I don't blame you for feeling the way you do, but it is a feeling, it is a belief, it is subjective.
Yeah, so give me a defeater.
I don't intend to. My point is it's not my job. You've made the positive claim.
So do you understand what phenomenal conservatism is?
Honestly, no, but I think you don't understand what any of the fallacies I'm using are either, and at this point is
yeah. So phenomenal
fruitless.
Conservatism just turned your fallacies into non-fallacies, right?
Did it?
Phenomenal conservatism states that that we are justified, and you use it too. Everybody uses phenomenal conservatism, so it turns into a case that when you deny phenomenal conservatism, you just go into absurdity because you quite literally use it. You can't decipher scripture without phenomenal conservatism, but it is the case that I am justified, all things considered, with my ability to learn, to acquire knowledge, to study, but I am justified that my seemings seem real until a defeater is presented. So for example, right, if I take a straw and I put it in a cup and it's filled with water and it appears to be split, at that point in time, if I have no other knowledge, at that point in time, my seemings seem to show that it is split. Now, a defeater to that, which would change my seemings, would be me learning about refraction. Now, once I learn about refraction, then my seemings adjust and I know that it is no longer thing, right? So all things considered, I am justified in my seeming real until there's a defeater. So this requires you to give me a defeater to not trust these studies and stuff when they come out. Thus, your fallacies are non-fallacies.
And again, we're going to agree to disagree on this point because Christianity being false as a positive claim requires evidence. You need to provide me perfect proof to Christianity being incorrect. We could change the conversation course if you'd like, because clearly you feel.
All right, we're going to go to Christ is King.
How you doing?
How you doing, Christ? Hey, can I get your age?
Yes, I'm 30.
All right, and are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
All right, what is your strongest argument or evidence that Christianity is true?
Christianity is true because God, who we talk about is God, has to be outside of time, space, and matter, because the person who created time, space, and matter cannot be in time, space, and matter. So the Christian God fits that what we're talking about when we talk about God. So that the Christian God is outside of time, space, and matter.
Okay. Did you listen to the syllogism I gave to the last guy?
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, so out of the three premises, which one do you disagree with?
Pretty much all of them.
Okay, so you don't believe Oh, so let me just say this first one. So all creation entails a change of states.
Okay.
What's your argument for that? That's not true.
God is not created.
Huh? Oh, I'm not talking about God being created. I'm just talking about creation in general requires a change of states.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that argument, but what I'm saying, as far as uh, God can't really be compared. We can make a little bit of a comparison, but if if God is not created and His creation is created, right? We can only
This
think
doesn't
about
sound
things
like
within time.
refuting premise one. I'm not satisfied with your answer. Can you just refute premise one? If you don't agree that all creation entails a change of states, I just need your argument for why it's not the case.
No, yeah, I do agree with that point. Yes.
Okay, so premise two, then, if you agree with it, premise two is going to be a change of states is the progression from one state to another.
Right.
Okay. Premise three, the progression of states is time.
Right.
Okay. Now, before I move on to that, my definition of a god is a mind that can create everything, possibly maintains the omni properties. Do you agree to that definition of what a god is?
Yes.
Okay. So, with that said, given premise three, time cannot be created because time requires time to create. So even if God is outside of our universe, if he's outside of our time, he could be going all the way back to what the last guest was trying to say was simulation theory. This God can go all the way to being the first thing to create the simulation. It still goes out wherever he is at as a mind, which you agree to. He would need to take a notice that something needs created. He would then need to make a choice to create, and then he would need to make a move to create. These are the progression of states that require time, that is time, which means that in order for him to create, time needed to already exist, but he can't create because time doesn't exist, and so he needs to create time for these progression of events in his mind. So God requires time to create time. Thus, God can exist because he needs to be able to create time.
My argument to that is you're inserting that God needed time. God doesn't need to create. That's what you're that
Well, I'm
like
not saying God
and I'm
needs to
telling you from my
create.
point.
I'm not
He
saying that
doesn't
God
need.
needs to create. I'm saying that for God to create requires time. Thus, time had to always exist. Even before God, time had to exist.
So if he's eternal, right? Wouldn't he have all the time in the world to create?
He still has to create time because in order for him to think, it requires time.
So you would agree that if he's eternal, he would have all the time.
He could be eternal, but he can't think of anything unless time exists. So he could create as a being that does nothing, that doesn't progress in any way, shape, or form, because that requires time.
But see, that's where I'm saying, like, from my position, God is eternal. So you're thinking of him as how we would think of finite. That's how you say it. So you're thinking of him as finite. See, from your finite mind, you're thinking of him as, oh, well, I think that because I'm inside of time, I can only think of time. But he doesn't do that. He's already eternal. So there's no time. Because if there was, say, see, if time is created, right? We would be still trying to figure out who created time. Right? So we'd be going through an infinite number of times to try to figure out who created time. With the Christian point of view, Christians are explaining that God is not created, so He is the unmoved mover. So He's the one where it
Mhm.
stops. Time is created because we can prove that because the expansion of the universe is steady state universe, of course, all that good stuff. But God wasn't created, so He doesn't need time to create. He created the time.
Yeah, this is a lot of word salad. It doesn't address the point, though. It doesn't address the point, though. The point is, right, in order for God, so God could exist, right? Let's say I grant you, God exists eternally, but he
Yes.
can't progress. He can't even move. He can't even twitch a finger. His hair can't even blow in the universe, right?
Mm.
But he can exist. But in order for him to do anything requires a progression of states within his mind, which requires time, right? But in order for time to exist, for a thought process to happen, if it doesn't already exist, he would need to create it, but he can't because creation again requires time. All acts of creation require time, right? So
Yeah.
the only thing that you can do is agree that time has always existed. But we know that through special and general relativity, we know that time and space are intertwined. So that's going to be an issue for you.
Well, that's why my position is that time was created, God wasn't. Now, when you say that
But God can't
something
create
has to,
time. Hold on. God can't create. So the argument that you're forgetting is God can't create time because that requires time to do. Any act of creation requires time.
He has an unlimited amount of time because he's infinite.
That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
How?
And an infinite amount of time is stating that
Yes.
time is already existing, right? Meaning that time had already existed.
So if time doesn't exist, right? What is it?
Say what?
If time doesn't exist, what is it?
Oh, I don't know. I posit that time and space have always existed. It's just not God.
Oh, okay. But if time doesn't exist, it's eternal.
No, if time doesn't
So he just-
exist, it's nothing. It's not time. It's a bunch of nothing. It's a nothing sandwich.
That's what we mean by eternal. There's nothing. There's no time.
That's not what eternal means. Hold on, that's not what eternal means.
I mean, what do you think of when you think of eternal?
What do I think of when I think eternal? Like, can you give me your definition
When
of
you think of-
eternal?
My definition of eternal is everlasting, doesn't end.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it's
have a
without.
beginning,
Yeah,
doesn't
it
have an
says
end.
it's without end or beginning, right? But
Yes.
if
And
time
has a
doesn't
beginning.
exist, hold on. But if time doesn't exist, that doesn't make it eternal, because it doesn't exist. There is no time. It's not eternal.
So what is it?
It's nothing. It's a nothing sandwich. Like, do you hold on? You're not going to be able to see this. Yeah. If you go look on YouTube right now, you'll go back and watch this and you'll see a laugh. What's in my hand right now? It's a big nothing sandwich. Right? I'm eating a big nothing sandwich.
I get it. I can kind of picture what you're saying.
You'll see it on YouTube later.
I'll look up some of this stuff. But that's what I'm saying is you can't even explain what it is if it didn't exist. Like time, what is it if it doesn't exist? Because
It's
you are
nothing.
inside of
If time doesn't exist, it's nothing. It doesn't exist.
So would I be wrong if I'm saying that God exists in nothing?
So like right now I am, you know what? I'm gonna let me get something opened up. I'm going to right
Okay.
now, right?
Mhm.
So, all right. So right now I just typed in a bunch of random words. So it's going to be, or not random words. I just hit my key and typed in random. As a matter of fact, let me make this more random. All right. So we're going to have cannot. So it's KGNAOSIUHT. Kgnushut. What is that? What is that?
Gibberish.
It's gibberish, right? What was it 5 minutes ago?
It was just words.
Non-existent,
letters.
right? It was non-existent, right?
That wouldn't be true.
It existed 5 minutes ago?
I mean, letters always exist.
No. Not the letters, right? Not the letters. The word that I just randomly spelled out.
It existed
Right.
as letters.
Well, yeah, but did the word itself exist?
The word itself, no.
Yeah, it was nothing. It didn't exist, right? That's what I'm saying.
It was nothing.
Time, if time never existed, it's nothing. It's just as much in existence as that word was 5 minutes ago.
That would be exactly what I'm talking about when I say God. God existed always. So he was in a state of nothingness and he chose to create, right?
He can't create because time doesn't exist, and time is required to create time. That's what I'm trying to say.
But
I'll grant you that God's body existed doing
He doesn't have a
nothing.
body.
Well, God's mind existed doing nothing.
Well, what I'm saying to you is you're just presupposing that because what we as Christians
I gave you a
believe is
syllogism.
God.
Argue with the point on the syllogism. Argue with one
That's
of the
what I'm-
three
that's what-
premises.
That's what I'm arguing.
No, you're arguing the
God-
conclusion. You got to argue one of the premises.
Well, I'm saying that okay, so as a mind, you do have to move to create. That's what I'm saying. But but God is eternal, so he has all the time, all the everything.
No, he
you
doesn't
just
have
stated
all the time. Time doesn't exist.
if it's
He
eternal.
has to.
okay,
Time is
so what
required to
does he have
create
that's
time.
eternal?
Time is required to create time.
Okay, so if time is not created, then what is it? You never told me.
Oh, under
You just said
your
it's not-
worldview. Hold on. Under my worldview, because
Oh,
I
okay.
believe the universe has always existed, and we know
Right.
through quantum and special relativity that time and space are intertwined. And so, under my worldview, it is the case that time has always existed. It was never created, it's always existed. But under your worldview, you have to justify how God was able to create time without having the ability to use time to create time.
Because he's eternal, so he just spoke it into existence. But also,
He can't speak.
this
Hold on. In order for him to speak, a process has to happen. Well, and first of all, how does one speak without a mouth?
he doesn't necessarily have a mouth like us. But
So how
he
does a
can
mind
speak.
speak?
He's spirit. He's not just a mind. He's a person. Like I'm a Trinitarian Christian too. So I don't know if that.
Well, yeah, but how does just a person speak without a mouth?
Because he's a person. He can speak like we are persons can speak.
Well, we speak because I have a mouth
I mean, he's
and
spirit.
vocal cords. Yeah, how does a spirit speak without vocal cords?
Well, you're comparing God to us. He's not us. He doesn't
Well,
need
yeah,
vocal
but you said
cords,
he's
right?
not physical. You said he doesn't have a body, so he doesn't have vocal cords. How does a spirit speak?
Well, that's like asking how can God create? Because God doesn't need us to create. He doesn't need the same properties as us.
Now, real quick, if the last guest that I kicked is listening, this is what Turtles All the Way Down is. This is quite literally Turtles All the Way Down. Well,
But
anyways,
also, I was going to even bring up the point Edwin Hubble actually said the universe was created. It's because it's constantly expanding. So what's
Oh
your argument
yeah,
with
but
that?
when did Edwin Hubble live?
I mean, when did the person that you said that created that theory that you hold to live?
What, Sean Carroll? He's
Is
still
that what his
alive, my
name is?
dude. Yeah, the quantum eternity theorem comes from Sean Carroll. He's still alive. The syllogism that I have comes from allegedly Ian, and both of them are
Okay,
still very much alive.
I'll check both of those out. But the steady state universe is still in effect today. Like I mean, everybody holds to it. You're the only one that
Wait, that
still
holds the
holds to the
what?
old the steady state universe, the universe constantly expanding.
Oh, have you not heard the new study that just came out?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's the DESI study, dark energy spectroscope instrument. What it
Okay.
shows, so it's a big, huge ass telescope, and for about the last 6 years, it's been doing constant 3D mapping of the known
Mhm.
universe, and it's been checking the redshift. Redshift is how we know the universe is still expanding, and it has shown that the universe is starting to decelerate. Right, so if the universe is starting to decelerate, that means it's eventually going to stop, probably within the next 100 billion years. And if it stops because there's going to be a big massive gravity in the middle, it's going to start to collapse in on itself. And thus the new theory, probably within the next 10 years, the new study will be that we don't just have a big bang, but we go through a series of big bangs and big crunches.
So you would believe 100 billion years that this universe, when you're not even going to be there, is going to expand in on itself.
Oh yeah, I
But
won't
it,
be here. I'll be dead as fuck. Yeah, I won't
but
be around to see it.
but it's difficult for you to believe that God has no beginning.
Yes, because again, due to the syllogism that you agreed to, due to the quantum
I
eternity
do.
theorem, due to the DESI study, and due to frickin' Occam's razor, God is added baggage, thus God doesn't exist.
God is not added baggage.
He is added baggage.
I mean, you have to presuppose that he's added baggage. That's the only thing you have to
No, Occam's
presuppose.
razor just shows that he's added baggage.
But also, steady state universe shows that he's not, because the universe now. Then who created the universe?
It's always existed. Good question, though.
Okay, so then how is time created? Because now we're
Time isn't created,
entering
time's
regression.
always existed. Time's
Yeah,
always
but
existed in my worldview. Good question, though.
but then you would be going. We can't get to today because you believe that the universe always existed. So how
No,
do
I
we get
believe
to
in B
today?
theory of time. So the cube that we
I
are
don't know that.
in would come to be, because I believe in B theory of time. I don't believe in A theory of time.
What's B theory of time?
B theory of
I don't know.
time says that every moment in time,
Mhm.
both past, present, and future, is just as real, and it's relative to us at the time, right? This is
Mhm.
just shown that, like, when things travel at the speed of light, they experience less time than things that aren't traveling at the speed of light. So it's just
Mhm.
relative.
So is it moving away from it, from the universe? Things that are traveling at the speed of light, is it moving away?
It depends on which way it's traveling. It's traveling
Is
through
it
the
traveling
universe,
towards us
certainly. It's traveling through the universe, certainly.
or away from us?
Well, it might hit something too, like it might hit the dark energy and just not be able to go anywhere.
Yeah, I get that part. But it's traveling away from us, right?
It depends. Some of it's traveling towards us, like the light from the sun is traveling towards us. Like if you go outside right
Mhm.
now and you look up, you're going to see the moon. And the only reason why you're able to see the light from the moon is because the light's as a matter of fact, anything that you see right now is literally because light is traveling towards you and into your eyeball.
Man,
That's how you see anything.
well, I think as far as as these theories. They're great, but they're only just theories.
Do you know what a theory is?
Yeah, it's what you think.
Well, what's the difference between a theory and a hypothesis? Because people a lot of times get theories and hypotheses mixed up. Do you know what the difference is?
They're both what you think.
No, a hypothesis is just me saying, hey, if I take this straw and I put it in here, it's going to make a noise. And then if I pull it out, it's going to make another noise. And I can make it really annoying. But then when I do it and I show that it's evident, and then I can go and tell people, be like, hey, try this. And as soon as we go through and do it, then we get, so it's initially a hypothesis with no evidence. And then once we've tested it and it becomes a thing, then it becomes a theory. So we now have Cyber's theory of the annoying straw in the soda, in the gulp, big gulp. And it's become a theory because it can be repeated.
So you're saying theory is factual?
Huh? No, theories have evidence. Well, theories have evidence that support them. Nothing's like 100% factual. They just have evidence that supports them. And it could be the case that we come up with more evidence later on that changes it. That's how we ended up with like general and special relativity, because it turned out that Newtonian physics only worked on Earth, but once we got outside the Earth's atmosphere, because the Earth is a closed system, once we got outside of Earth, turned out that Newtonian physics doesn't work anymore. It falls apart. So then they had to design or figure out a new system. So it's not that it becomes wrong. We just update it.
So yeah, that's great. So basically you're saying you can't even prove Christianity to be false.
I just did. I just proved that God doesn't exist.
I mean, God exists.
If God doesn't exist, Christianity is definitely false.
So where did you prove that God is false? Because you just presuppose that God is not necessary.
Checking something real quick.
You're fine.
Huh? Oh, yes, this was Culliver's. It is Culliver's. Anyways, my question is though, who do you believe in?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe in
His name and
God through
he
Jesus Christ.
appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Oy. Anyways, with that said, I am going to call it there. It is 12:08. I do work in the morning. And real quick, was everybody able to hear those last two sound effects? One was Joe Hendry and one was the trombone womp, 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 womp. If you heard those, let me know. I want to hear it in chat. Did you guys, are you serious? Did you guys? Hold up. I gotta try to fix this then. Let me go here. How did you guys not, let me checking something here real quick.
Listen, buddy, I'm in charge now. Unfortunately, I can't shred you into scrap metal as per the doctor's orders, so how about instead you shut up and do your jobs?
Oh, man, TikTok, you guys didn't get to hear that. So we got him with a womp, 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 womp. And let me see which bar this plays on real fast. We will
Run.
let me... Hold on. Are you guys getting an echo right now? Am I echoing right now? On any place, do you guys hear me echoing right now? Okay, so I am echoing. All right, can you guys hear me right now? Can you hear me right now? And is there an echo? Okay, but there's no echo, right? No echo, or is there? Okay, no echo. And YouTube, is there an echo on me right now? Okay, there's no echo. All right, so here's the sound effects that he got. He got... Right, so we got that. And then when I asked him who he believed in, we got...
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Sorry, that was for TikTok. They didn't get to hear it. But with that said, we are going to call it here. We're going to bring up Boyish. I'm going to try to bring you up. I'll give you an accept real quick. TikTok's been acting extremely finicky.
Hi.
Hello, let me make sure I get these settings changed so that people can hear you. Oh no, I dropped you. Come back up. Come back up. I accidentally dropped you. Come back up. And then for those who are on Video Ninja, I'm not going to be bringing anybody else up. I will bring you guys, come back tomorrow, and I will bring you up tomorrow.
Cyber, if you just like hate me now, you can just say that.
Only on days that end in Y.
But I wanted to give a quick voice update and
Yeah, it is a little bit deeper than
I'm
it was
joking.
before.
Yeah, this is my voice 6 weeks on testosterone boosters.
How many days?
6 weeks. So
Oh, 6 weeks. Nice, nice. So let's give Boyish some massive W's. Seriously, for them to come up and share this with us is really kind of a personal thing, and it takes a lot of courage. So I appreciate you being comfortable to do this.
Oh, I'm gonna send you a message on Discord later because I want to invite you to my server because I post them in there as well.
Okay, sounds good, sounds good. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and drop you down.
Everyone remember to stay hydrated and take your medication though.
Yes.
Including you, Cyber. And when I say stay hydrated, I don't mean fucking Monster. Get some water.
This is actually water. This is actually water today. Most of you don't know, most of my Monster cans are water. But with that said, everybody, thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. I actually greatly appreciate it. I love doing this. It means a lot to me. It means a lot that you guys are willing to come and hang out with me at night, late at night, for this. It means a lot. With that said, W my mods, W the mods, over on YouTube, you guys are amazing. And I will see you all tomorrow night. Y'all have a fantastic evening.
Plug in love. Plug in, log on, let's break it down. Truth ain't scared to be found. Dogma shakes when questions rise. No more fear, no more lies. Cyber deconstruction, let's get real. Faith when challenge starts to peel. If it's built on solid ground, why is it scared to stick around? Say